And we're live. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your man James, Mr. Sequential Treasures, back again with some more live stream action for you. First of all, let me all wish you all a very merry Christmas Eve. As you all know, it's the day before Christmas Eve, and I thought last time I did one of these sequential thingy pieces was going to be the last one of the year, but turns out, yeah, not so much the case. It looks like I, as always, underestimated the stupidity of people in the comic book industry to create. Stuff to talk about. So here we are, and we're going to be talking today about some more fallout from the recent events with Mark Millar and retailers who were speaking out about the conditions in the comic industry today, and how it has really ripped the mask off the people who are basically in charge of the industry in a way. The people who are creating the stuff right now in the mainstream, and it's really torn the mask off them about their about what they really feel about the very industry that they're a part of. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about certain names and certain people, of course, but I'm going to give you the big overview of it all, and you're going to see that there's a connecting thread through a lot of this stuff. But before we continue here, you got to say hello. Here we got our good friend Leg Kicks here. Hello. Hey, Leg Kick. Glad to see you join us, my friend. Hope you're doing well this day. And hopefully we got some stuff here that you're going to find some interest. So now with all that out of the way, let's get right into our stuff here. And so I'm going to start sharing stuff here to really paint the picture, because this is really, like I said, a mask off moment. We're seeing these people for who they truly are, what they're really about. And despite all the stuff they've told us for years, things that that they said weren't true, things that they said were a bunch of conspiracy theories, all this stuff, and we're seeing now that really it wasn't. And whether they're doing it tacitly or whether they're doing it even directly, in some cases, they're admitting the people that they have been going after have been right all along. And again, that's what you're going to see by how they're reacting to things currently. And so let's get some of that going for you here. And okay, and here, and we'll bigger that up. There we go. Now, we all start off with this again, we'll go back. I'll just be a little bit of recap here because I want you guys to have a full feeling of exactly what's been happening. Now, as you all know, there's a video out there of this retailer named Glenn O'Leary, who a few weeks ago did a video at his store that he's been doing for a while now. He's been doing these videos, and he talked about, in this one video, there's been a minute that's been clipped out of it where he complained about certain things happening in the industry, about the creatives who are turning characters into self-inserts, who are writing the characters in ways, these iconic characters we all know and love, in ways that they were never meant to be. And, they just are totally devoid of creativity and expressing, the characters the way they're supposed to be expressed. And so he was attacked for this. And, we're going to go through just a few quick reminders here. Here's one guy here. Comic shops where owners' opinions can be as antiquated as their business model selling paper magazines. This is another one. Donnie Cates, famously Donnie Cates. Even people in the industry came out to attack him. Don't you hate how when guys don't you guys hate how when you go into a hardware store, how the guy behind the counter always tells you how much hammers suck? Again, stupidest thing ever. Here's Ramon Villalobos, another creator. Comic writers, take note. This salami-breathed hog has some sage wisdom for you all. See, again, attacking him personally, attacking his appearance, attacking, just, on a very visceral level. Because what he said obviously made waves with them. And then even people who tried to maybe take his side got led into all this stuff too. Here you got, Jimmy Palmiotti, who said, "It's something I tell newer writers all the time. Read all the history of the character and understand their motivations and why the audience fell in love with them. It will help you understand who they are. So if you change anything about them, it's in line with who they are." Very, very much common sense stuff, I would say. It's exactly what you would expect. But as a result of that, him getting piled on, he goes, "Deleted that post because of the bad energy it was bringing. Amazing how some people can't have a civil conversation anymore. I enjoy hearing both ends of an argument, but it has to stay polite." So again, he was getting pilloried by, you saw the people before. Those types were attacking Jimmy Palmiotti. And of course, it's all ended up going out to even retailers. Other retailers would attack. You got one from Ryan Higgins who says, "Just pure bigotry from many retailers these days. I prefer the whole industry burn tomorrow than side with them." Now, this is key because this is what we're going to be getting into. You can tell by the title of this little stream here. This is key. This is the first time we saw somebody say something like this in regards to all this stuff that has been going down. Go back to whatever garbage Comicsgate has on Indiegogo and get out of the industry. Keep publishing this stuff. The stuff, of course, is the woke, identity politics nonsense that has basically destroyed the modern comic industry. And we got Ron Mars and Ram V coming in complaining about how, people saying that writers should write the stories the readers want. You write them something that they won't entertain them, and saying that somehow, well, it's not a restaurant and you don't get to order what you want off the menu, except it is a restaurant because that's what a franchise is, just like Burger King. So you go to Burger King, you expect hamburgers. If you go to Burger King and they want to give you tofu, you're like, hey, what's this? I didn't order this. I want a hamburger. And they're like, no, I'm sorry, this is what we sell. And if you don't like it, you're just a plant bigot. That's how stupid they are with this stuff. You go into a franchise expecting a certain thing, and if you don't get that thing, you're going to complain. And they think somehow that they're above that. Well, I'm an artiste. I can do whatever I want. And if you don't like it, screw you, bigot. Again, we've heard all this before. Ram V even doubles down on it. The guy goes, "Love your work, Ram," but the dude clearly didn't say that. He's being pretentious with his opinion, but what he means is to respect the character's lore and personality, which even you'd admit is right. And then Ram V again, another mask off moment here. I saw the video. I'm quite literally quoting him. So he did very much say that. No, he didn't. It's his whole thing is that he's saying that, he hates diversity. He didn't say that. He said he doesn't like characters being written out of character. Icons that everybody has come to love and know are not being done the way they should be done. They're being used as mouthpieces for personal political views of the writer. They are being made into self-inserts of the people who are creating them. That's what he said. That's not the same thing as saying I hate diversity. He goes, I agree with your sentiment in the latter half. But there's no reason to respect anything. It's not religion, it's mythology. Knowing it, understanding why it works is more important. Well, but the thing is, if you understand why it works, then why would you change it? Why would you want to change something when you understand what it is? Like, oh, I know why people like this. This is why. So let me go ahead and now, do more of this because this is what they enjoy. And again, that's the whole point of entertainment. This is something you're going to see. All these people who complained about oh, this isn't burger, this isn't like a restaurant. You don't get to have it your way. It's art, and art is we'll decide what we want to make. And if you want to come along, that's great. No. See, that's art for art's sake. And I've said this many times. There's art for art's sake, and then there's entertainment. Art for art's sake is, I want this to exist in the world, so I'm going to create it. Even if I'm the only person who cares about this, I don't care. I want it to exist. I want it to make it manifest, and I will. That's art for art's sake, and that's fine for what it is. But entertainment is different. Entertainment isn't art for art's sake. Entertainment is getting paid to produce. You are being paid to produce something that a large enough audience that you can make a living off of will buy. That's what it is. And that's what all these characters are. That's what all these comics are. That's what all these movies are. They're all about a character or an intellectual property that an audience likes as it was envisioned. And if you go and change that, they're going to say something about it. And they're not wrong to do so. They're not wrong to call that out. Who's wrong are the people who want to change it for their own personal agendas, for their own personal reasons. That's where it's wrong. And see, so here he is saying, there's no reason to respect anything. And again, this is pretty much their mindset. They don't respect you. They don't respect the characters. They don't respect the retailers. They don't even respect the industry itself. The industry that is paying them their salary. This is like I said, there's a truly mask-off moment here. And then, of course, Mark Millar got involved, and he had Glenn on. He did a video with him and, talked with him, and he's been defending Glenn and all this other stuff over the course of this. And then, of course, this moment happened, and this is what really has set off everything in the more recent, last couple of weeks. Because of that video with Glenn O'Leary and Mark Millar, here comes the very Voldemort himself. Ethan Van Sciver came out and goes, "Terrific job, Mark. Thank you. I feel like you might be the only one who can destroy this evil. That's what it is. It's killing comics. I'll get more eyes on this interview right now." And then Mark Millar, 2 simple words. "Cheers, bud." That's it. That's what he said. I mean, it's right here. You see it. And well, that just set everybody off the edge. Here you got everyone's, and then of course now it stopped being about Glenn O'Leary and it became much more about Mark Millar. And here's Daniel Calban says, surprise, surprise, Mark Millar plays to the far right culture warriors again by supporting the guy who just insulted his fellow comic book creators. Just more of him turning into a far right jerk. And you notice here, he tried again. He Voldemorted Mark Millar. Can't say his name, but he wanted to make sure everyone knows who he's talking about. And again, we saw this guy earlier who attacked Glenn. Now he's the same thing here from Miller. I think I'd be less annoyed by old man Miller's antics if he just owned he's seen the money from the rage bait grift machine and he's very interested in joining. The pretense of respectability and nobility is nauseating. That's pretty funny coming from these people who also like to think they're very noble. Oh, we're the ones who care about society. We want everything to be equal and fair and social justice and all this other stuff. And yet, look at it, they're attacking Millar for what? For having an interview with a guy? For saying cheers, bud, to Ethan Van Sciver? I mean, is that really? But see, again, this is what they do. When you stand against the orthodoxy, they have to destroy you in any way they can. Here's another one. I understand that artists need to get their paycheck. However, they can, but however, I understand that artists need their. I really wish people would learn to use, punctuations. I understand that artists need to get their paycheck however they can, but I do hope in the future they will see this and maybe think twice before working with Mark Millar. And again, what does they show? 2 words. Cheers, bud. I mean, that could mean anything. It's not some tacit, I totally believe in everything Ethan Van Sciver says, and Ethan Van Sciver is a prognosticator of the future, and he's a great guy. I don't see that. Cheers, bud. Whatever. He basically thanked him for saying he's going to support, and put out the interview that he did with Glenn O'Leary. I mean, but again, notice what it said. Here they are now trying to cancel Mark Millar, saying, don't work with him. Think twice before working with Mark Millar. Why? If Millar's doing work that you can work on and make a nice paycheck doing it, why wouldn't you do it? Even as they say, I understand artists need to get their paycheck however they can. Yes, especially in these times, thanks to people like Natalie here, who most likely voted for Joe Biden, which, thanks, Natalie, because that's why we have the screwed up economy we do. So this is what we have. But yet here it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you need to make a living. Not working with Mark Millar matters more because we hate this guy because he said things we don't like, because he supported people that we wanted to crush. And of course, here we go. Why exactly are people siding on Mark Millar? And then here comes our favorite gay boy, Joe Glass, the guy who has worked for the comic book Show Media and then has went off and did his own gay comic books that are all about just being gay. There's no real story to him. It's just about being gay. And he cries and whines now online, begging people to buy the books because he can't afford the storage space that he has to store all these books in. That's hilarious. Again, a guy who, when he did his crowdfunders, said, I don't care. I don't want to make a big profit. I just want to make just enough over to make it so I can, afford to get the book published. Again, more like art for art's sake. And here it is. He comes in. Getting friendly with CG. The latest is a fairly friendly response to EVS, it seems. 2 words. 2 words. Also highlighted and defended that comics retailer who basically said comics are dying because people are adding diverse elements to existing characters, etc. Again, not what Glenn O'Leary said. That is not what he said. He said, but people pick up Captain America, they want to read about Steve Rogers. They want to read about the writer's, personal politics being spewed through Steve Rogers' mouth. That's not what they want. Steve Rogers has a voice. He has a character. We know who this character is. And we want that character. We don't want you saying, well, I think the character should be this, so I'm going to make them that. No, that's not your job, creator. This isn't your property. See, again, this is the thing they talk about when they say, oh, you can't get it your way. It's like, yes, we can. This is a franchise. Captain America is a franchise. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Hulk, Cap, Iron Man, all of them are franchises that are known for making a certain thing, like Burger King or Pizza Hut. When you go to Pizza Hut, are you looking for salad? No. Are you looking for, barbecue? No, you're going in for pizza. It's in the name, Pizza Hut. That's what you expect. So if you go into Pizza Hut and they say, well, yeah, we're only doing salad. We don't have pizza anymore. We just do salad. You would be like, well, what the hell do you call yourself Pizza Hut for? But again, Never said any of this. Again, the lies, the mischaracterizations, the outright just fabrications these people pull, because this is what they do. Again, you're going to see this is the game and how it's played. Got some comments here from Leg Kick here. The reason why is to usurp the white guy with talent who is successful. Yes, exactly. That's a part of this. Jealousy is going to play a part in this, you're going to see. But it goes a lot deeper than just mere jealousy of the guy who's successful. And here's everyone's favorite fake holiday, Kwanzaa. Comes in. He's safe from cancellation because any accountability is a payday with crowdfunding and attention as a cherry on top. Your site, market data, other retail pros prove go woke, go broke is wrong. So his claims are either pure bigotry or a grift. Again, attacking Mark Millar. And of course, Rich Johnston comes in our site. Our favorite little hobgoblin, Rich Johnston. Mark has been grifting since the 90s. He's hardly a stranger to it. Grifting by talking to industry people, to people in the retail sector about the problems they're having with being unable to sell these shitty quality books full of toxic identity politics and other stuff that is contorting the characters into something they were never meant to be. And by doing that, you're somehow grifting. Now, see, again, keep in mind what Rich says here of what he's saying about Mark Millar, because this is going to come into play in a little bit here. And of course, here's our favorite retailer, Ryan Higgins, the guy who we just saw said he'd rather the industry burn than have to admit that the fellow retailers who are stating these problems are correct. Here's what he goes. He goes hard on Millar. Here he grabs a bunch of screen caps from him, some stuff he said, about the stuff going on in the industry. But the bottom two here are the key. Millar goes, there's a really interesting book being written about this tiny network terrorizing pros these past few years, and I think it's going to really blow up when they're exposed. I think a fantastic documentary on it would be like a dose of salt through the industry. Now, and then here's a link to a book, which I'm going to show you right here. This is the book right here from Penny Parker, who all of you know from Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool with Rich Johnston, Bleeding Fool. And Penny Parker did an expose series on the Whisper Network. These people within the industry, a lot of them female, who got together in secret little groups and clubs on Facebook and other, social media sites to devise and denigrate people in the industry they didn't like to try to get them canceled. That's what they did. And there's no question about it. This was provenly shown to what they did. And here Penny is, as you can see, she has a book she has coming out in 2025 called Generation Simone. And the even stranger downfall of America's comic book industry. So this is what it's about. This is the book that Ryan said Mark Millar was talking about, but it wasn't. It actually wasn't. Millar was talking about a completely different book from somebody who's a friend of his. He doesn't know Penny Parker, but his friend of his who's doing another book. But yet, this is what people immediately jump to. This is what these people went after. They said, this is what he's talking about. Oh, he's after, and they made it. Oh, see, he's going after Gail Simone. He's going after the women. He's a misogynist too. He's not just a bigot because he sides with EVS saying cheers, bud. But hey, he hates Gail Simone and women in comics. And as you'll see here, this is where things really blow up. And just in case you think that the Whisper Network is fake, here's Alistair Campy, one of the head honchos of the Whisper Network. He's been verboten on the Whisper Network for years. Time to stop whispering and start shouting. And here's another one, Stephanie Cook, or as I call her, Stephanie Crook, because she ripped off Bill Willingham for like $10,000 and ran to Canada to escape justice. Whisper networks are not enough. They only protect people in the know who are know enough to talk to people with insider knowledge. Shitty people out of the industry. There you are. So the Whisper Network is a real thing. It's not like something that was made up. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's true. The people who are in it are telling you that they're in it. But again, despite all of this, and the fact that Millar wasn't even talking about Penny Parker's book, this is what sets all that off that's about to be going down now. Here we got Bill Sienkiewicz comes in. I don't know the context, but I love you and I'm there for you. I also have a baseball bat if it comes to that. Note to Facebook and government watch groups. You do the same thing for your friends, so back off and take it with the appropriate amount of empathy. So right here, he's basically threatening Mark Millar and anybody else with a baseball bat. Violence. And he knows it's true. That's why it's told Facebook and the government, to take it with the appropriate amount of empathy. Like, don't come to me saying I'm trying to be violent. You do the same thing. And then Gail Simone comes in. Bill, I adore you. Thanks. A big name pro decided to aid in harassing a small group of female creators with the most sick, gleeful, creepy tweets ever. Way worse than it sounds. So again, the Whisper Network. She admits the Whisper Network exists. Again, this is something to being told for years by these people. Oh, there's no blacklist, there's no Whisper Networks. That's all conspiracy theory nonsense done by a bunch of alt-right bigots. Furthermore, with Bill Sienkiewicz. Motherfuck. Why? I'm so sorry you and other killer talents are being subjected to this bullshit, hun. It's depressing and infuriating. I'm around if you need to talk. Have bat, will travel. Again, more threats of violence. Again, this is the mindset of these people. You said something I don't like. Even whether it's true or not doesn't matter. Whether it's legitimate or not doesn't matter. I don't like it. Therefore, violence. This is where they go. This is what's going on in the industry. And then Rich Johnston comes in. I have been divided about covering this, given it just draws attention to blatant lies being pushed. I could pointedly contradict their statements, but would it draw more attention to them? So here it is. They're starting to understand now the whole, basically what I call the Trump phenomenon. The more you come at something, the more eyes you get on it because people are talking about it. And that's what he's worried about. He's worried that people are going to listen to the people that he would then say, look, he says are, just blatantly lying. He's worried if I say something, I'm giving them airtime. See, again, they don't even want the debate. They don't even want to talk about it. They know it's true, but they don't want to talk about it. They just want it silenced. Shut it up. And of course, some people come in and tell him, someone needs to tell the truth so lies don't become the truth. Well, it kind of is too late for that. You guys have spent years telling us the industry is booming. Comics are doing awesome. And now we all know that they're not. I agree with Matthew. You're excellent at what you do. I'm sure you could report in a way that encourages less support for these idiots. Oh, so you see, again, you're good at what you do. What's that? Well, that's propaganda. That's what it is. It's not reporting facts. Rich doesn't report facts. He's a gossip monger. He's part of the Whisper Network. And of course, after all this, Millar comes out and he has to say, what has this got to do with Gail Simone? I have zero connection to Gail beyond knowing her a little 20 years ago, and she's always been very cordial. This is utter insanity. American comics is a playground, full of children. And then another Whisper Network right here, or another media shill, Heidi McDonald. Somehow, when you make vague insinuations about people, ignore people who try to correct and warn you, like you will ignore this tweet, and do respond to people who literally think women don't belong in comics, you get misunderstood. So, again, see, because he said, cheers, bud, to Ethan Van Sciver. Because, he doesn't listen and believe what people like Heidi McDonald and Gail Simone and the Whisper Network people say. Well, see, you're a problem, Mark, and that's why you get misunderstood. Because you're not saying what we want you to say. You're not supporting what we demand you support. This is what they do. A little more here from Leg Kick. They cry when people come back with violence, crying, I'm a victim. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. You see it right there. You saw Bill Sienkiewicz throws out just willy-nilly and knowing it's wrong because, again, that's why he told, Facebook and the government agencies who he knows are probably watching, hey, don't hold this against me, because he knows it's wrong. So they have no problem throwing out violence themselves whenever they feel like doing it. But then when you say something that might even mildly come anywhere near that, oh, I'm a victim of being harassed. They're making death threats against my life. Yes, that's what they do. This is the gaslighting. This is what they do. And then, of course, was born Mark Millar's probably his greatest creation, the Cancel Pig. That's right. Cancel Pigs began trending all over social media. And, I've seen a lot of great images by people that they've made, some by hand, some by AI art, some by computer stuff, but of all the ones I saw, to me, this is the perfect representation of who these people are. This is them right there. the expression, the folded arms, the angry look, the rainbow flag in the background, the fist in the air. We're the power. This is what they think and believe. This is how they operate and act. And again, this is like probably the greatest thing Mark Millar has ever created is the term cancel pigs. And this set them off. Oh my God, they went absolutely apoplectic in the wake of that. Here's fake holiday. You claim this while calling folks pigs. Get your big name pals together. Yank the hoods off, big man. So here it is. He complains about Millar calling people cancel pigs, never specifically naming anybody. And yet here it is. He's calling him what? A Nazi? A Klansman? So it's okay for them to say that about you, but you call them cancel pigs, and that's somehow across the line. How dare you? How dare you use our tactics against us? Here's probably the person that most people thought of immediately when they heard the term cancel pigs, Redfamous, a very well-known troll who has spent years trying to get people canceled all over the internet. Is Mark Millar going to apologize to the rest of us dealing with this cancel pig shit he started? Or is he only apologizing to Gail after his attempt to drag her through the mud backfired? Again, where did you see him attack Gail Simone? I showed you the quotes. I showed you the tweets. They assume when he talked about the book that he meant Penny Parker's book, which is going to deal with Gail Simone, among others. But that wasn't the book he was talking about. That wasn't the person he was talking about. And he never mentioned Gail at all. See, these people, again, this is they'll show you their face. They tell on themselves, these people, But it's funny, she knows what she is. She knows what she's done. But again, these people, the way it always works with them is whenever they do it, they're justified. You're never justified, but they are. When they say something against you, like you saw with Kwanzaa, calling people basically Nazis. Oh, well, that's okay. That's not bigotry. That's not, harmful. That's not, over the line. That's just, you're just Nazis because you guys don't believe what we believe. So you're Nazis. But yet when you see cancel pigs, we need apologies. What are you doing? Are you going to apologize? How dare you? How dare you? Here's another one with now. This is interesting. You're going to see here with Rich Johnson. He goes, "Thanks for the for the input, cancel pig one." And then he lists this list that Penny Parker did of people who the Whisper Network, i.e. the 12 Psychos on Twitter. Take a look at those names: Stephanie Cook, Heather Antos, Tess Fowler, Heidi McDonald, Joe Glass, Alice DeCampi. All people you saw me talk about in here many, many times. And of course, here it is right at the very top. Who's at the top? Why, it's our good friend, the Hobgoblin, Rich Johnson, who comes in on top of this and goes, "Hey, I'm against cancellation and have been consistent on that." Yes, against cancellation, which is why, as you saw just a few moments ago, he jumped in to try to bag on Mark Millar, saying that he was a grifter since the 90s and is very well versed in it. This is the guy that says, I'm against cancellations, except, when I jump in with people to do them. And then he goes, and B, people on that list have tried to cancel me. Well, that's interesting, because I thought, Rich, there was no such thing as a Whisper Network. I thought that was just all a bunch of, hooey. I thought I was a conspiracy theory by a bunch of right-wing bigots. I mean, that's what you and others have told us all, right? That's what the media, shill media has told us. That's what the creators have told us, right? The leftist creators. Oh, that's a bunch of conspiracy theorist nonsense. But yet they tried to cancel you. That's kind of interesting. But again, he gets blowback for this. And that's what I find funniest of all. Again, from, of course, the fake holiday himself. How, Rich? Please explain their attempts at your cancellation, because nearly everyone in the industry has had beef with your chaotic neutral energy at one point or another. How funny. So here's Kwanzaa saying that Rich is a problem in the industry, basically. You're a problem. You've burned bridges, you've burned people, you've done all kinds of things to harm them. So pretty much almost everybody in the industry has a problem with you. How is it those people on that list tried to cancel you and nobody else did? How did you narrow it down so easily, Rich? But then we come into the real point of why Kwanzaa came in and said this. Don't feed these bad actors, please. the bad actors being the people that they've been trying to cancel. And by Rich saying that he's tried to be canceled by the very people in that list, that gives credence to the fact of, oh, the Whisper Network exists. Oh, they're out there trying to cancel people. And so this gives them ammunition against people like Fake Holiday here. And so, like, don't feed the bad actors, please. Don't give them ammunition. Don't give them the truth that they can use against us. It's amazing how much these people, obfuscate. And here's our favorite cum dumpster, Heather Ontos. Cancel pigs means defund the police, right? I'm certain that has to be what y'all are going on about. It's the only logical explanation. Which, of course, that just shows you how stupid she is. Trying to play. See, that's how you know she's really stupid, because she's trying to play dumb, and she's not even able to pull it off. That's how stupid she really is. She's trying to somehow connect cancel pigs to defund the police when this has nothing to do with the police. This has to do with cancellation with the Whisper Network. And she knows that because, again, as you saw, she's a part of the Whisper Network. Leg kick again. Conspiracy theories came true how many times? Yeah, exactly. It's they call them conspiracy theorists, but I think at this point we should call them conspiracy knowists, because they just seem to know it's all true. Everything they say comes true. So they're conspiracy knowists at this point, I would think. But again, she pipes in just to try to, again, obfuscate. Oh, it's about the police, right? And now we get to the big boy here, the cancel pig number one right here. Fat boy Mark Waid. Now, this is where it starts. And you're going to see there's going to be a lot to go with this. Mark Waid is almost like an industry unto himself in all of this. The more I think about this, the angrier I get at Mark Millar, is who he's talking about. First off, I doubt the book will ever be published. If Gail or Kelly Sue wanted to justifiably sue it, their GoFundMe would cancel the national debt. Now, what he's talking about, again, is the Penny Parker book that's coming out in 2025 about the Whisper Network. And so he's saying he doubted it will ever be published. And, and that the Gail Simone and Kelly Sue, who, again, were on the cover, could justifiably sue to stop it. And it's like, but if they could, wouldn't they have already done that by now, since we know the book is coming? Why haven't they done so? Why have they made no moves? Are they afraid? What are they afraid of? Afraid that if they tried to stop it, that somehow Penny Parker might take that whole court case to prove exactly what's in the book is true, and that it will all come out, all the discovery that would happen in such a trial? Is that why they're not doing it? Because they figured it's easier to try to obfuscate on the internet by ourselves than it would be to go into a court of law where stuff will get exposed to the light of day? Yeah, I think so. And he goes, secondly, by publisher, I assume she means some CG dudes, or else she'd have given a name. Now, again, isn't it funny? They want the name of the publisher that's going to publish the book. Why is that, Mark? Why do you guys want the name? Could it be because you're going to then try to attack the publisher so that they don't publish the book? Threaten them and intimidate them? I mean, after all, Mark Waid has a history of this kind of stuff, which, we're going to get into in a little bit here. But, so again, it shows you exactly who these people are. But this is as far as Waid went. It would be no big deal. It would just be more Mark Waid nonsense. But no. He goes out to the stratosphere on this. He continues on. And like a falling star rocketing across the sky, another former comic superstar whose heat is fading chooses to cry for attention by blaming the industry, his peers, and the audience rather than taking stock of his own professional progress, admitting that we are often the authors of our own fate and finding the courage to reinvent himself and stay relevant. I mean, was he looking in a mirror when he wrote this? Because that sounds a lot more like Mark Waid than Mark Millar. Millar, just got the Netflix deal. I mean, he's like, he's got like, J.K. Rowling money. He's got FU money. He has no worries about where his next meal and paycheck is coming from. He's even said that he doesn't even need to work in comics anymore to make a living. When he does comics, it's just because it's a project he just wants to work on, just because he wants to do it. He doesn't even need to make money doing it. But the key in this that I found most interesting was that last bit. Finding the courage to reinvent himself and stay relevant, which, of course, is exactly what people like Mark Waid want. They worry about that. They want to reinvent yourself. You mean become something you're not? To change what you are? I mean, it's not surprising because I'm sure he's of the same caliber of people who believe nonsense like men can become women and women can become men. That biology isn't real; it's just bigotry. So yeah, just reinvent yourself. Just make yourself what you are, what you aren't. You just be something completely different. Like Dan Slott in my last live stream here. The one I did right before this one, where I showed that he said that well, you can't destroy these 60, 70, 80-year-old characters because they've been around forever, and even if you do something that could quote unquote damage them, you can just hand wave it away. In a reboot or whatever. Basically meaning that the work means nothing now. It doesn't matter at all. Who cares? And so it's that thing. Just be whatever you want to be. Who cares? See, again, this is the thing. These people have no moral center. And so to say you just reinvent yourself, just make yourself something else. This is like I said, all this has been very revealing. It's not that hard. My star is not going to burn forever either. His star hasn't burned in 20 years. No one's does, and accepting that fact gracefully is a sign of emotional maturity. That's funny. Mark Waid talking about emotional maturity. Again, we're going to get into that in a little bit here. You're going to see his level of emotional maturity throughout his life. But if I ever become that guy, every single one of you has permission to slap me upside the head and force me to reread the above paragraph as many times as it takes to sink in. Wow. So I look forward to the next time there's a convention with Mark Waid. I hope there's a line that I can get in to just slap him in the head, because everyone's going to have to be having to do that. I'd even pay. Here's $5 to get my head slapped to Mark Waid. Give me that, because if anybody needs head slaps, the only thing I worry about is you're not really going to do too much damage to Mark Waid, I think. You probably do more damage to your hand than you would to him. That'd be my only concern with it. But yes, again, how funny. Again, violence. You see how violence is just easily inferred by these people. No thought about it whatsoever. Just violence. But this is the one that really got people's attention. And again, if you remember Ryan Higgins' post, where I said that was like the very first mention of it, here it kind of goes, into like, just overdrive. This guy here, Stephen McKee, goes, "I love your work, Mark, but seems anybody who tries to highlight the issues that the industry is facing either gets piled on, or in this case, his star is fading and looking for attention. Mark has said he hasn't relied on income from comics for a long time. See, rather than this tit for tat that we are seeing throughout the fandom, and maybe people should actually try to get together and try to fix what's wrong. I am by no means an expert, only a consumer, but all this doesn't seem to be helping matters." Very reasoned, very rational, very well said. Now, what's Mark Waid's response? "I think a lot of us would rather the industry just burn down, to see the industry burn down, than get together with the alt-right. I know I would. Sorry." So right there, anybody. So now people are saying this. A lot of people going on with the whole thing, burn the industry down, which again is very true. I do believe that he would gladly burn the industry down. But to me, the key in this is what is the second part: get together with the alt-right. Now, what does he mean by alt-right? Because if you know what the actual definition is, that would be something like along the lines of a neo-Nazi. So, are there people in the comic book industry who believe in an ethno-state, who believe we should kill all the Jews and racial minorities? Is that what we have? Is there a big conglomerate of them in the industry? Because if there is, I would say I could understand somebody not wanting to work with someone who would think such things. But see, that's not who he means when he says the alt-right. And we're going to see that by the second paragraph he puts in here. "And I call bullshit on anyone who tries to highlight the issues gets piled on. I think it's far more accurate to say anyone who wants to blame everything on SJWs gets piled on, or anyone who wants to complain that their favorite characters are being written as political mouthpieces but can't provide any examples of this is being piled on." So there it is. It's not alt-right for Mark Waid, isn't actual like neo-Nazis and stuff like that. No, it's people who disagree with me politically. People who think that identity politics has no place in fiction, of superheroes. It's people who think that, activists masking themselves as creative people are a problem. Those are the alt-right for Mark Waid. And not just for him, of course, for a lot of others. For a lot of other people in the industry. Um, I mean, yeah, to a degree, you're definitely right there, leg kick. They did burn it down to a degree. It's not completely burned to the ground yet, but again, I have no problem believing that they would gladly do that if it meant, denying their ideological opponents. But see, that's exactly what this is. Alt-right for Mark Wade doesn't mean what the actual definition of the word means. Kind of like people with racism. The definition of racism isn't what they mean when they say racism. What racism means for them is people that disagree with me, people that say things I don't like. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. But that's it. So the word choice is key here in what Wade says, calling alt-right, because he doesn't mean alt-right in the dictionary definition. He means alt-right again by this second paragraph right down here. This is what he means by alt-right. And others start coming out of the woodwork to back it up. Yeah, racist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic imagery can fuck right off. Let the whole thing burn. Hell, I'd probably even pour gasoline and light the match myself. So here's again, these are people, blurred, blurred, which is a word that's been created to mean black nerd. So someone who you would say should love the industry, right? Because that's what it is. Nerds love comics. So here it is. People who supposedly are fans of the industry love comics, and they're all perfectly fine with burning it down. Go ahead, let's do it. I'll light the match myself. You see? Mask off. Here's once again fake holiday. If they're as bigoted as Coliseum of Comics owner is, it's because they don't know how to sell them. Other retailers are evolving and expanding. Now, Coliseum of Comics is Phil Boyle, the guy who wrote the IVC2 article, I think, last month that got noted, where he complained about the same kind of problems that Glenn O'Leary was, and even more. He went even more into detail with like business side stuff. And, so here he is attacking, a retailer, saying that the reason they can't sell the shitty work that they're producing right now is because he doesn't know how to sell them. It's not that the work is poor. It's not that the attitude and behavior of the people within the industry is bad and driving readers away. No. It's just that these bigoted retailers, they just don't know how to sell this work. And then other retailers are evolving and expanding. Yes, they are. They're evolving and expanding by no longer carrying as much comics as they used to. Instead, they're carrying Funko Pops and board games and, Magic the Gathering cards and toys and all kinds of other crap. It kind of reminds me of what San Diego Con has become, according to people. I mean, I've never been to it, so I don't know. But from people who I do know, who I trust, and who I know have gone in the past, in the 80s and 90s, it was like a huge comic event. It's like 90% comic book stuff. And yet if you go now, comics are sort of pushed back in the little corner. You got movies and video games and television and, toys and all this other stuff, all this ancillary stuff that is now much more what the show is about. And the comics sort of pushed off in a corner somewhere in its own show. It's a second-class citizen in its own show. And again, I know this again from working in shops myself. I worked in a shop in the early 90s. And it was, what they had in the shop? Comics on the wall, the comics bins, the new release wall, all that stuff. And, a little section over where there was like trade collections. And what they had? I think he had a couple little statues, I think, that were more decorative than they were for sale. And he had a rack of shirts, with like Spider-Man and Deadpool and Batman on them and stuff like that. That was it. What you would call a true comic shop. That's what I worked at. You don't see many of those anymore. The shop owners can't make a living doing that anymore. They can't just work on the books and sell the books to make a living. That used to be the lifeblood of the store. The new comics were the lifeblood. Now they're not. That's why they're expanding and evolving into all these other things that have nothing to do with comics, because they can't make money at comics anymore. The comics aren't selling. Hell, I even have retailers, where I went to shows and talked to them, and they said that, thank God for the back issues. Back issues are selling better for some shops than the new stuff does. I mean, what does that tell you? I don't think if you went back to the 80s and 90s, you're going to see a lot of retailers saying, yeah, back issues are keeping us in business. No, it was the new releases that were keeping them in business, but it's not that way anymore. Comics aren't dying. You are. Well, I mean, I guess technically we all are. When you think about it, we're all dying. But no, comics absolutely are dying. That's what the retailers are telling us. That's what they're saying. That's what all this stuff that's coming out is all about. The retailers are sounding the alarm bell saying, guys, 2 years tops and it's all over. We can't keep taking these losses. And, assholes like Kwanzaa here, they don't care. And here Patrick Zurcher comes in and he goes, this is from your boy Zach who caught this because, I don't follow Patrick Zurcher. A comic writer pointed out talent doesn't want to get together with white nationalists to make comics. I agree. I'd like to take a stance against serial killers as well. I don't think people want to do that in any profession. But thanks for addressing an imaginary crisis. Now, your boy Zach thinks he's making fun of like Mark Waid for saying he doesn't want to work with the alt-right, saying, well, the alt-right isn't in the comics, so it's nothing. It's an imaginary crisis. There's not a bunch of neo-Nazis in the comic industry we got to worry about. But I don't think that's the case. I think this is his backhanded way of going after the people who are saying, what an asshole Waid is for saying he wants the industry to burn down. That's the imaginary crisis that he's addressing is, people who are thinking that, they want to burn the industry down because, again, their own words, Ryan Higgins, Mark Waid, other people, I've shown it right here. They've said that. But that's the imaginary crisis I think he's talking about. Not so much the people who are saying, calling people alt-right because they don't, because they disagree with them politically. And again, it just goes to show the obfuscation that these people will do, the levels they will go to hide the truth. But there are people out there who don't. There are people who see exactly what's going on and they tell you the truth, like Graham Nolan here. And, full confession here, I love Graham Nolan's work. I have since, his Batman days. He's a great talent. I've backed every one of his books that he's done for crowdfunding since he's been doing that. And, some I've enjoyed more than others, but none of them are what I would call bad. All of them are solid, if not better work. Alien Alamo and Joe Frankenstein are the two I would recommend to you most out of everything that he's published. Those two, go and check them out. They're great work. Yeah, I mean, I guess to agree, that's true. They don't care because they don't make money in comics. Yeah, and that's funny because again, what did they make? What were they crying about for? Last year. If you look, guys, in the description, I have a couple of my my past live streams here linked down below. One is the last one I did, which was sort of part one of this story, which is part two we're talking about now. But the other one is from last year at this time, literally almost one full year, where they were crying about not being able to make money in comics because of piracy. And, it's so hard. I can't make ends meet to working in comics. So they haven't been able to make money for a while now. And yet, here they are now saying, let's burn the industry down. I mean, it's crazy. But, some people see what this really is, and Graham Nolan calls it out perfectly here. If you want the comic industry to crash and burn to the ground, be careful what you wish for. You know what the difference is between fans and backers? Fans support you with tweets and attaboys. Backers support you with their wallets. I have backers, and I love them. And there it is. That's the difference. These people, they don't see you, the Kwanzers, the Bill Sienkiewicz's, the Gail Simones, the Kelly Sue DeConnicks, the Mark Wades, the Ron Mars, the Ram V's. They don't see you as a backer of their work. They see you as just another annoyance. That's why they don't care what you say. That's why they said stupid things in the past, like, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Or, readers aren't my customers. The retailers are my customers. That's the stupid shit they say because they have no respect for you. And yet here, as Graham shows, he does have that respect. And that's why he has backers, not just people who, hey, good job, Graham, slap him on the back. Hey, good job. Hey, let me give you a retweet. Because you can't feed yourself on retweets. You can't make the rent on retweets. And again, it shows you the stark contrast between someone like this and the other people you just saw. Even as they cry and whine, they can't make money in comics. They attack the very people that they need. They attack the readers. They attack retailers. The very people they need to make money. Whereas you got people like Graham Nolan who understand all that and go, yeah, I need those people. So, I want my backers. I want them to back what I'm doing to make it successful. But after all this blows up, Wade then tries to, I say, soft shoe his stance a bit and try to back it off a little bit. He goes, yep, the mainstream superhero comics industry is having a rough time of it lately. Few people are saying otherwise, which, of course, is a lie. We've seen for literally years, they have told us, oh, comics are booming. Comics are doing great. Look at the ICV2 Comic-Con graph. 2.2 billion, better than ever. Of course, again, when you break into those numbers, if you just look at the pie itself, yeah, it looks like it's great. But when you break into what those numbers mean, all of a sudden you find out, oh, well, it looks like it's manga and young adult stuff that seems to be driving the sales, and the mainstream direct market comic book industry, well, that's not really doing too well. So there are plenty of people who have been lying about this. Not just a few people are saying otherwise. No, lots of people have been saying otherwise for literally years, gaslighting you, telling you that, don't believe your lying eyes, don't believe the closing shops, don't believe the stacks, inches deep stacks of comics on a shelf. Don't believe any of that stuff. Don't believe your lying eyes. Listen to us. Comics are doing great. And Wade continues, and my heart goes out to struggling retailers. Again, keep that line right there in mind, because you're going to see just how much Mark Wade really cares about retailers in this very shortly. Steps need to be taken, and even the alt-right loudmouths make some good points. So right there, that's as close as we're likely ever to get from anybody like Mark Wade and his ilk to admit that we were right. That's what they're saying there is, the people I hate are right. That's what that says. I hate these people. I don't want them to be right, but they're right. What they say is true. The quality sucks. The work sucks. We don't care. We treat the readers with disdain. We treat the retailers with disdain. We treat the very people we need to keep the business running with disdain. And we don't care because we're all a bunch of political ideologues who only care about our own self-aggrandizement and the pushing of our narratives and the control and power over the means in which to present it. That's it. That's all they want. And this is as close as we're ever going to get to them admitting that we were right. But when make better comics becomes make more comics that are more to my own personal taste, that solution I can't get behind. Except nobody is saying just make the comics to my own personal taste. They're saying make the comics the way they were meant to be. Again, like I said before, Captain America, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, the Hulk, they all have their own voice. These icons, these franchises, they have their own voice. They've lasted 50, 60, 70, 80 years because there's been a consistency in that voice. And if anybody started to go a little too far afield, they quickly brought it back in and said, oh, no, we can't go out that far. No. That's what they did. It was different in the past. Today, they don't care about any of that stuff. None of that matters to them. For them, it's all about, I want to tell the story. I want to say all white people are racists. So I'm going to tell a story where I do that. I'm going to make Spider-Man look like a moron. He's going to be in Hong Kong fighting Asian criminals and then worrying about if that makes him look racist because he's a white man. Never mind that he's not beating them up because they're Asian. If he did, then Spider-Man's a racist. But is he doing that? No. Why is he beating them up then? Oh, because they're criminals, and criminals is who the good guy fights? Oh, so then he's doing what he's always done. You see, that's the difference that we're talking about. So it's not to my personal taste. It's Spider-Man has a certain feel. He has a certain voice, and you need to respect that. And that's what's not happening today. Again, I go back to those sage words of wisdom from Denny O'Neil. He said that when you're the editor of the Batman and Superman titles, you aren't just a comic book editor, you are the custodian of folklore. And that's what this is. That's what all these classic, iconic characters we love so much are. They are our folklore. And you can't just come in willy-nilly and alter it however you want for whatever agenda you have. This is how you destroy them. because that's not what they're meant to be. And this is all, but see, that's why, when you tell them things like, look, if you want more gay characters, go make more gay characters. If you want more women characters, go make more women characters. There's no reason to trash these icons that have been around for decades just because you want something else. Just go make something else. And then people will, and if it's good, people will support it. But that's just it. Because it's never been about that. They tell you, it's about inclusivity and representation and, all that jazz, all the buzzword salad, but it's never been about any of that. Because if that's what it was about, that's what they would have done. Or they would have worked with the characters in the industry already who already meet those goals. I mean, why isn't there people doing a Luke Cage book? Why aren't they doing Storm in a book of her own? Black Panther, You want gay characters? Apollo and Midnighter. North Star. These characters like that have existed for decades. At least since the 70s. So we're talking 50 years at least of diversified characters this way. Oh, we need more diversity. How do you need more? It's already been there for 50 years. But it was never about any of that. It was about, pushing a narrative in a place where more eyes will see it. And of course, that will be the classic iconic characters. And or spite-driven people who come in to destroy those icons because they're loved by the people that they hate. Oh, white guys love Spider-Man? Let's destroy him. White guys love Batman? Let's destroy him. That's what it is. It's just pure spite and putting agenda above all other considerations. And this is what has destroyed comics from within. And we got some more here from Leg Kick. These alt-left liars calling everyone Nazis are offended over cancel pig. But the left in Canada gave a standing ovation to an SS soldier in Parliament along with their president. Yes, I remember that. That was hilarious that they actually stood up for an actual Nazi. A literal Nazi. Yes, that was hilarious. We hate the Nazis, but we'll give them a standing ovation in Parliament. Yes, that was hilarious. That was like one of the most ridiculous things I ever saw. I can't believe they were so stupid. But again, these people don't know what true evil is. Because if they did, they'd understand they're more evil than the ones that they're going after. But continuing on with Mark Waid, badly produced comics sure aren't helping. And there's a bunch of them out there. But neither is pretending bad superhero comics are some new phenomenon. Well, no one's saying it's new. What's new is the reason why they're bad. See, before it was maybe the person just didn't understand the character and they told a story that they thought would work and it just didn't work out that way. Or they had an idea and it just didn't pan out the way they would have hoped. It's bad work, but unintentional. Or maybe they were just someone who just didn't care and they just phoned it in because it's just a paycheck. It doesn't mean anything more to them than that. But that's very different than what we have today. Today we have people who write stuff intentionally making it bad because they want to hurt you. Again, the one I'll go back to, because it's a very easy one to show, is the She-Hulk TV series, where the director and the lead actress and the showrunners and writers came out and said they wrote the show the way they did to troll the fans, to troll people. They weren't, they said all the things that that we saw, all these things that we were hearing and we figured this is what they were going to say about it anyway, so we just used it against them. Instead of saying, well, let's prove them wrong and make the best damn show we could make. That's not what they did. Instead, they said, well, then let's just, troll the fans and laugh at them and mock them. And you see what happened on the series. It was a disaster. Disney lost millions of dollars on that show. A show that, it just made no sense. You had writers on it who said they have never written a legal drama type setting for a show, and yet the show was called She-Hulk Attorney at Law. So a law drama. They said it was all about female empowerment, and then what they have her do, they have her twerking like a slut in that one episode at the very end with Megan Thee Stallion. It just, they don't, it was everything, all the things they said was all just wrong, But there it is. That's the perfect example. These are people who didn't understand the character. They didn't understand what it was all about, and they didn't care. For them, it wasn't about any of that. It wasn't about creating a good show. It was about attacking people they hate. And that's what you're seeing in the comics themselves. Again, I've shown you here in the past in many streams, showing you, scenes from comics, like the one from that one Batman book where Alfred basically tells Bruce that, he's basically a rich guy who has to get dressed up at night in a costume and go out and beat up poor people. Never mind that, this is Alfred. He's been with Bruce since the beginning. He never talked to Bruce like that. If anybody knows why Bruce does what he does, it's Alfred. He would never say that to Bruce, but the writer had to paint Batman as a racist, or at the very least a classist. So Alfred has to say that. Who cares if Alfred Pennyworth would never say that? His character doesn't matter. What matters is me making Batman look like a bigot. Another one I have is Titania in the female Thor nonsense, when she knocks out the absorbing man and then tells Jane Foster's Thor, hey, yeah, he's not going to fight no women Thor, neither am I. He goes, I know it's been hard for you, so I'm going to let you have this one. I'm going to let you take us out this time, because my girl power. And it's like, that's not Titania. If you know anything about the character in her first appearance, her whole thing was all about power. She felt like a whip all her life, and then when she was finally granted power by Dr. Doom, she's now got a chip on her shoulder the size of Texas, and she's like trying to, come on, knock that chip off. Come on. She was always spoiling for a fight. She didn't care who you were. Hell, she almost beat the She-Hulk to death. Where's the girl power there? According to what happened in that Thor book, she should let She-Hulk beat her ass because, girl power. They don't understand. They don't care about any of this stuff. As someone who's been reading them for nearly 60 years, I can promise you that many of the ones you remember with nostalgic fondness because you liked them as a middle schooler are just as bad compared to the actual classics of today. Well, first of all, I wasn't reading them in middle school. I didn't start really serious getting in until I was in 9th grade. That's high school. And I've read them ever since. So basically, you say, mostly it's been my adult life I've been reading comics. So the nostalgia of childhood doesn't really factor in that much for me. And classics of today. What classics, Mark Wade? What stories are classics today? I don't mean classically bad. I mean, because then you'd have a long, long list. But like a classic story like the Dark Phoenix Saga, Kraven's Last Hunt, the Bloodstone Hunt, Born Again. These are all classic. The Killing Joke, Year One, The Death of Superman. These are all classic stories. These are stories that everybody knows and remembers and loves because they were true to the characters. And they were a story that was about character, not about an agenda, not about, pushing a narrative, but to elevate the characters, to show you something about the characters themselves that we all know is true. This is why those stories resonate. This is why we love those stories, and that's why they are classics to this day. That's why they've been reprinted so many times over the years. There are no classics of today. I asked somebody once, I said, name me in the last 10 years a truly classic comic book storyline. Like the ones I just named, like the Infinity Gauntlet, or who is the Scourge in Captain America? Something classic that everybody remembers. And they couldn't think of anything. The closest they got, they said Civil War. And I said, well, that's like 15 years ago. That's even longer. I say, and second of all, I don't think Civil War was all that great either, because again, that to me is truly where I think things start to change. Myself personally, you got Cap, who is murdered, and seen as a patsy. You got Iron Man, who's acting like a dictator, creating a holding place in the negative zone to hold villains in, without trial. I mean, just it very much destroyed those characters in a lot of ways. Set us on this path that we're on now. And so there it is. They couldn't name anything. There are no classics today, and that's part of the problem. Continuing, just because you and your friends don't like something, that doesn't automatically make it empirically bad. No, that's true. That's true. Just because you and your friends don't like it doesn't mean it's automatically bad. But you know what does? When it doesn't sell, when people who read it say this sucks, when when the stores that are selling it say, I can't keep my doors open selling this garbage? Then I have to bring in Funko Pops and board games and all this other stuff to subsidize the fact that these books won't move off the shelf? That we can't sell them in at 75% off, and we still can't get them to move? To me, that's what makes it empirically bad. Because again, if you go back through time, I think you'll find you won't see that in any other era of comics. Again, just going with myself here again. I was at a convention one time, the very first one I went to, and the shop owner I was working with, he had a bunch of back inventory that had been sitting around. Again, this is like in the late 90s. So, it was after the speculator bubble would pop. So there was a lot of stuff where, stores were stuck with a lot of inventory. So we took it to the show and we marked it at 50 and 75% off. And, we had like 8 long boxes that we had brought with us to the show for the table. And we sold out like 4 of those boxes at those prices. And I can't tell you how many times people kept asking us, are you guys going out of business? Because we were selling it at 50 and 75% off these back issues. And it's funny because, there was no problem selling that stuff. It moved, man. We were probably like one of the places everyone kept coming to. Imagine probably people going around the show saying, hey, go to those guys' table, man. They got like 75% off on some stuff. You got to get over there. And we got some more from Leg Kick here. I don't know. Maybe I'd hesitate a little to say not in 30 years, but I'd say definitely in the last 20 years, nothing. There is absolutely nothing in the last 20 years that has been classic. There is nothing. And again, that's just the point of it all. Is that they're talking about like the actual classics of today, and there is no classics. There hasn't been classics for a long, long time. But there it is. It's not empirically bad because I don't think it is, or you don't think it is, but because the people who are selling it say it is. They're saying we can't sell this. We can't move this. We can't survive and keep our business operating trying to sell this product. We can't even get this product to move out our doors at 75% off the cover price. That's what I think makes it empirically bad. And then, of course, as always, as I said, just always violence when it comes to these people. He keeps doubling and tripling down on this nonsense. For the foreseeable future, anyone who starts a sentence with the words, the problem with comics is, as if there is only one problem and it can be fixed with a magic bullet you're about to present, can find me in my backyard next to my wood chipper. So, I mean, what, was he talking with Bill Sienkiewicz? Is they going to team up on this? Bill's going to hit you with a baseball bat to knock you out, while then Mark throws you into his wood chipper? Is that how it's going to work? I mean, that's what it seems like to me. We didn't get Mags Visaggio in there, They like to hit people in the mouth with a baseball bat, according to them. I'm sure he wouldn't mind helping them out too. So there you got him and Bill Sienkiewicz swinging bats, and then Mark is just sitting there like waiting for people to be piled up like cordwood to be thrown into a chipper. I mean, this is the mentality of these people. And for what? Because someone, again, words. The problem with comics is, and so we want to throw you in a wood chipper because I don't want to hear it. And again, even more, for those coming in late, what I said that's causing internet meltdowns was that when it comes to resolving the problems of a dwindling market, a lot of us would rather see the industry burn down than ally with the alt-right. If this statement enrages you, it says a lot more about you than it does about me, except it doesn't. It absolutely says a lot about Mark Waid because, again, it comes down to that key I said. What does he mean by alt-right? Now, again, if alt-right stands for actual literal neo-Nazis, well, yeah, I think you'd find almost everybody would agree with him. Yeah, we don't want to work with neo-Nazis. But as we saw with his post when he made that statement, he sees it as anyone who disagreed with him politically. That's who he means when he says alt-right. If you don't agree with me politically, if you don't agree with me ideologically, if you don't agree with me on, the current, what's the current thing, if you don't agree with me on any of that, well, then you're just an alt-right bigot. And that's what he means. So if we're going to be more accurate to what he said is he'd rather the industry burn down than work with people I don't agree with or like. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. And again, that statement does say a lot more about Mark Waid. And and those of his ilk. But again, you might be thinking, well, maybe you're being too harsh on him, James. Maybe you're taking him out of context. Maybe he didn't mean it the way it sounded. Maybe he's just not that great with expressing himself. Of course, the fact that he's a writer, you'd think he would be, but maybe he just didn't state it in the best way possible. Maybe he was being a little hyperbolic. You're taking it too serious. Okay. Well, now we're going to get into Mark Wade's past. And you're going to see that the current stuff that's happening right now is hardly some anomaly for him. It isn't like, oh, it's some outside the norm. He got upset. He had a bad day. No. Mark Wade has been this way for a long time. We're going to get into some of this. Here's one from 2017. Someone tells them here, says, your bigoted one mindset is why why not only Trump won, but also because your books sell like shit. So basically what he's telling him is him and Andy Coury, who is no longer in the industry, the guy that destroyed the Vertigo imprint, and said that the reason people are upset by the way they're writing the comics now is because they woke up one day to find out the hero they liked as a kid would punch them in the face today because, basically you're all bigots. He's no longer in the industry, but him and Mark Wade saying that their bigoted mindset is why Trump won the 2016 election and why their comics sell like shit now, which in both cases is absolutely 100% true. And what's Mark's reply to this? When I say fuck off, you racist misogynist, I mean fuck off. Blocked. Okay. The interesting thing about this is racist misogynist. Now, you see here what the guy said. Where is the racism and the misogyny? Is there a hidden N-word in there somewhere that I didn't see? Did he say that, Trump winning, somehow is a slam against women? Where does he get it? He's talking about two white guys. Him and Andy Coury, white guys. Are you saying you could be racist and sexist against men? And white men? I mean, what are you saying? See, again, this goes back to what I said. The word choices they use. See, when he calls him a racist misogynist, he doesn't mean someone who hates people who are non-white or of a different ethnicity or whatever, and women. What he's saying is we called you racist misogynist. What he's saying is, shut up. That's what he's saying. It's just, these are all just fancy terms for shut up. Alt-right Nazi, bigot, homophobe, transphobe. It's all just, all words meaning all the same thing for you. Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Shut up. Here's another one. From 2014. Here we go, almost 10 years ago. Wasn't a lecture, just responding to your juvenile response. But you're the educated one. Love the comics, though. And then, seriously, fuck off. Please never read my comics again. I don't need your money from someone who attacks me out of nowhere. I don't need your money. Again, looking at the state of the industry now, just 10 years later, do you think he regrets that? Do you think he doesn't mean that anymore? Do you think he's sorry he said that? We got some more here from Leg Kick. I'm neither right or left. I am neutral, but I see these people as they are. Exactly. And that's what they fear more than anything else is being seen for what they are. But here it is. I don't need your money. Right up there with Kelly Sue Comics. If you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. So there it is. Don't need but it's funny how maybe Mark Wade doesn't need his money, but do the retailers that Mark says he cares so much about and feels such empathy for in these hard times we're living in, do they need the money? How about the publisher who's signing his checks? Do they need the money? It's funny how when he said this, he didn't think about how many other people get money from the work. Telling them never to read his comics again. Never buy my stuff. I don't need your money. Never mind, there are other people who may need that money. I don't care. See, again, they always expose themselves. Here's another one. It's to David Gabriel's enormous credit that he somehow chooses every day not to put his fist through Jude Terror's smug-ass face. Now, Jude Terror, for those of you who may not know, is a part of the show Comic Book Media. I believe he worked for CBR or Bleeding Cool or one of the shill sites. And Jude Terror is a smug-ass son of a bitch. No question. He spent a year, along with a few others, and like Renfamous, calling Ethan Van Sciver a Nazi and trying to get him canceled. So, Jew terror is a horrible scumbag of a human being. But again, once again, notice violence. Violence, Now here you could say, oh, well, he's saying that to talk about someone else doing it. Yeah, but notice, why would Mark Wade say it's to the credit of that guy that he doesn't do it? Because if it was Mark Wade, he would do it. Oh, if I was David Gabriel, I'd punch him in his smug ass face easily. Oh, see, violence. These people are they truly are. I believe they're psychopathic. And here's a real classic. Here's a real classic. I think this is about from what was it, 2018, I believe. This is the classic with Richard C. Meyer. This is the one where Wade puts out a call. And again, we're going to read this. For anyone attending this weekend's Baltimore Comic-Con, I have an important request. There is a serial YouTube harasser named Richard C. Meyer who I'm told may be attending as a fan. If anyone sees this gentleman or any of his friends, I need you to come find me and tell me immediately. Even if I'm on a panel, come up and interrupt. Please circulate this request as widely as you possibly can through all your social media accounts. Fellow pros, tell each other. This is about attempting to lessen the harassment of women in comics, and it is important. Please spread the word. So here it is. This is famous call to say, if you saw Richard C. Meyer at a convention, to come get him. And again, more inferred violence. Now you might say, well, James, he doesn't say anything violent here. He doesn't say about throwing him in a wood chipper or, punching him in the face or anything like that. How do you know it's violence? Well, let's think about this. Come get me immediately, no matter what I'm doing. Even if I'm on a panel, interrupt the panel just to get me, say, hey, yo, you got to stop your panel. You got to come. Richard C. Meyer's right over here. So why? What are you going to do, Mark Wade? What was the plan? Were you going to say, hey, let's go over to the concessions area and get a couple cappuccinos and just sit down and have a little discussion? Is that what was going to happen? Because I don't think that's what was going to happen. Oh, yeah, I have no doubt he is. I have no doubt that he is. But again, it's definitely inferred violence here. That's what this is. I have no problem worried, and I wouldn't have worried about Richard C. Meyer. He's a former Marine, and Wade is a pudgy bastard. There's no, your boy Zach probably wouldn't have to throw a single punch, just keep stepping out of the way of Wade trying to swing on him, and eventually Wade would pass out from just the sheer exertion you have to put in. Because it's a lot more difficult throwing punches on somebody than it is stuffing Krispy Kremes down your gullet. So I don't think he would last long. I wouldn't worry about that. But it makes a point. Again, here it is. To go after a fan, he even says it himself, attending as a fan. So there it is. And then, in case you think, well, maybe I'm taking it the wrong way, he follows it up to someone else who replies and says, a good photo, Molly, but thanks. The ones I have are either too old or too tiny to count on. And again, this goes very, very badly if I talk to the wrong guy. Now, why would it go badly if all you're going to do is talk? The worst that would happen is you come up on somebody and go, hey, are you Richard C. Meyer? And you go, no, I'm not. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were Richard C. Meyer. I was going to, I wanted to have a talk with you because I thought it was, you were Richard C. Meyer. I'm sorry about that. My mistake. And you walk away. No harm, no foul, right? You're just talking. How does that go badly? See, go badly to me would seem to suggest that you're going to do something more than talk. You're going to start throwing. And if you throw on somebody and now you've not only hit someone, but you hit the wrong guy, well, now you're really in trouble, aren't you? So, again, he's a violent psychopath. And here's more of it. My biggest regret at this weekend is not being at whatever Comic-Con to personally and forcibly move Arthur Sondheim's shit off other artists' tables. Now, it could be annoying if somebody's stuff spreads out over your table a bit. I've worked shows. I've seen that happen. Their stuff goes a little over the edge onto your table. That's annoying, but, forcibly move him? What was he going to do? What was the plan? What are you going to do? Flip his table? Trash his stuff on throw it all on the floor? What was he going to do? And again, he doubles down on it. Busy contacting every show I'm doing the rest of this year to warn them that if Sondheim pulls this shit there, I'll make it loud and ugly. That certainly doesn't sound like someone's just going to talk, doesn't it? Again, more inferred violence from this asshole. And here's one from T. Franklin, another social justice SJW loser in the industry whose whole big thing is her identity. I'm black and I've got autism and I'm handicapped. You better like me or else you're going to bigot, you know? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyone who's actually done an actual physical confrontation, they don't talk in the way Wade is talking. But here, I found this one interesting because look at what she says here. I should have known not to enter this racist ass comic industry when Mark Wade explained to me repeatedly why it was appropriate to say the N word in a book while saying N word to my face in an interview at a Comic Con with a link to a YouTube video, which I guess is where you would see him doing that very thing. And again, it's funny because Wade would be one of those people, you saw him multiple times in this already, calling people racists. And yet here he is using the N word in front of a person of color, you know? If you did that, you'd say, oh, that proves that you're like practically like the Klan. But here he is doing it. Now, is T. Franklin lying? I mean, it's possible. Again, all these social justice types, they'll easily throw their own under the bus. They don't care. They have no loyalty. They have no friendship. They don't know what friendship is. But again, if there's any truth to what she's saying here, it just goes to show the two-faced duplicity of Mark Wade, saying he cares so much about the weak protect, the strong protect the weak. That's his whole big line from Captain America. The strong protect the weak. And yet, this isn't what a strong person would do. You know, again, just the duplicity of the man. Now, I've shown you here, you've seen how he treats the readers, how he treats his colleagues. But you saw in that one post he said about how he's so sympathetic and empathetic for the retailers. Oh, I feel so much for them in these hard times they're living in this current climate. Okay. Well, how does Mark Wade really feel about the retailers? Well, this right here is from a gentleman named Dennis L. Barger from 2019. And I'm going to read all this because you can see it's a little bit of he goes into detail in the story, but I'm going to read it all and then I'm going to hit you with my thoughts. But listen to what happened to him in an interaction with the sainted Mark Wade, who cares so much about retailers. I never had a chance to tell everyone about my Diamond Retailer Summit run-ins with the notorious tough guy, Mark Wade. First, I didn't even know he was coming to the event. As usual, Diamond doesn't bother finding out or telling retailers about these things. So when they announced Humanoids was coming up next with CCO Mark Wade and some other exec, I was all ears. They have a presentation that was lackluster. Retailers were not impressed. Now, we had ordered Humanoids comics before, bought a healthy amount of their free comic book day offering this year, and it definitely was not a success at my store or any by my talks with other retailers. But sure, I'll listen to what they got. Wade chimes on about all the really heavy SJW content they have coming up. It's mostly laughable plots stealing from the very successful Black Mask publisher model, which we do stock. He punctuates his presentation with a joke calling to donate to his losing legal defense fund, which you can hear me cackle at on the video. They end and he walks off the stage. I turned off my recording as he's walking by. He points to me and tells the lady he's with, see that guy? He's one of the garbage humans I was telling you about. Always wise to tell a retailer at a retailer's summit they are a garbage human. He steers clear to me for most of the summit, and on the day we are to go around and talk to publishers and get their catalogs and preview comics, I work my way around to the Humanoids booth. As I walk up to the Humanoids booth, Mark immediately says, "Go away, Dennis, you aren't welcome here," while making the shoo away gestures with his hands. I laugh and say, I'm a customer coming to check out your product. The lady immediately stands next to Mark and remains silent. Mark just continues, "Go away, Dennis. We don't want your business. You're not even a real comic shop anymore." I laugh again at him and talk directly to the lady in hopes that she has sense. "So I'm being denied the preview of your comics?" Mark reaches over and picks up his free comic book day comic and throws it at me and says, "You can have this." I bat it away from me and say, "Are you crazy throwing a comic at me? Besides, I already have those. I ordered them because I'm a customer." Looking directly at the lady, I say, "Are you going to let your employees treat a customer like that?" She says, "I've known Mark a long time, and I'll take his word for it." So I reply, "Well, then you've lost a customer forever till you get rid of this hack fraud." So yeah, the reason I won't be ordering anything Humanoids puts out from here on is because of the way its employee Mark Wade and whoever that lady exec with him treated me at the Diamond Retailers Summit in Las Vegas 2019. So there you go. The guy who says, I care so much about the retailers there. I feel for them so deeply. They're so important. This is how he treats them. This is how he treats them. At a summit for retailers. But again, this isn't even the worst. This isn't even the worst of it. This is just a guy who is on the outside in a way. He's a retailer, but Mark doesn't have any direct contact with this guy outside of this summit here. This is another story I found. Again, from years ago. And again, I'm going to read all this to you because, again, this is even worse. This is a retailer who was directly involved in business with Mark Wade. And you can see what they did to this person. I've gone back and forth on this very personal post, but I am seething with so much rage, I have to let it out. I'm done pretending it didn't happen. The NDA has been up for years, and I've never had to sign a thing. Fuck Mark Wade. This man got into business with us. He created a partnership for the comic book store that was never technically legalized. When his piece of shit girlfriend decided she wanted Jason gone, he sided with her, knowing it was wrong. When it got bad and we finally lawyered up, we were told, do you have tens of thousands of dollars? Because he does, and he's going to drag this out in court. We can win, and we will, but that's what you're going to owe in fees. Can you cover that? Because he can. I know his lawyer, and he's giddy at the prospect. We let the store go. 10 years of my best friend's life was gone. 10 years of hard work realizing a dream was ripped away from him. And to add insult to injury, he left the store with $150,000 in annual sales, $100,000 in product and fixtures, and Mark paid him less than $5,000 to shut his mouth and walk away. That was our reality. A rich, recognized, wealthy white man wanted more and took it. Robbed the little guy, smeared his name, took his business, and then a year later broke up with the girlfriend and then signed it all over to her like it didn't even happen. He ran, literally, flew across the country and ran from his problems. He throws money around, or he's out, or he runs and hides. We always heard about his temper. We didn't realize the reality. If you don't believe me, there's a 911 tape out there of Jason calmly calling the cops while Mark is screaming bloody murder, destroying the store in the background. Fact. Now, I don't know all the details of this lawsuit, and I don't really care. What I do know is Mark's temper got him in another situation, and he's using his popularity and fans to take money from hardworking people to fund his lawsuit. He absolutely does not need your money. And he absolutely deserves what's coming to him. Now, this was in when Richard C. Meyer had his tortious interference case where Wade called up Antarctic Press and got them to back off on selling jawbreakers through their company. This was his tortious interference case. And Wade was, soliciting for money to fight the lawsuit that Richard Meyer had put on him. And this person, Shannon here, came out from the woodwork to tell the story of how her and her friend Jason had a comic shop. And this is what happened to them working with Mark Wade. This is what Wade does. This is who he is. This is how he treats retailers. This is the way it goes with him. So I've showed you now, it doesn't matter who you are. Reader, retailer, colleague. It's all the same with Mark Wade. He treats people like trash. But I've saved the best one here for last. This is from an interview with I believe it's Gary Groth from, I think, is it Fantagraphics, I think? Fantagraphic Comics? It's a small press publisher, I know that. And this is during Wade's earliest days in working in the comic book industry. And again, I'm going to read all this before I give you my thoughts, but listen to the story he tells and the picture that it paints. I didn't put much attention to Wade's work habits or to Amazing Heroes. He seemed like he did his job, but one day I got to the office earlier than I usually did, maybe at 9 or 10, because I probably didn't go to sleep the night before. So I'm in my office, which was off the living room area of the house where Wade, Joe Sacco, Bob Fiore, and a couple of others had desks. I couldn't see a sliver of that area from where I sat. Tom and I shared the space, which was long and rectangular, and my line of sight was limited. So I'm in my office, and suddenly I hear a crash, followed by screaming and sobbing. It sounded like somebody was being thrashed or mutilated. So I run out into the living room, and I see Wade on the floor banging his phone on receiver on the ground over and over again and weeping and screaming. I look around me, and absolutely no one is paying attention to this. Joe and Bob are huddled over their typewriters. Dave Olbrich is sitting there calmly at his desk. It's as if I'm the only one who's witnessing this. I thought maybe I was hallucinating. So I scream at Wade, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he looks up, startled, composes himself, picks his phone up, puts it on his desk, and sits down. No one says a word. Wade's behavior was unnerving enough, but even more unnerving was everyone else's lack of reaction. Later, when Wade had gone to lunch somewhere, I asked everyone, "What the hell was that all about? Why were you all just sitting there as if nothing was happening?" They basically told me that went on all the time, but only in the morning before I showed up. So they'd all gotten used to it. There you are. This is the classic Mark Wade temper, that we just saw Shannon, the retailer, talk about. This is his earliest days in the business. This is who he is. This is what he. So when you look at the stuff he's saying today, and you're thinking, oh, maybe you're taking it out of context, you're not understanding, he's not expressing it correctly. No, this is who he is. He has been this way for a long, long time. I mean, frankly, I think the guy should be locked up, in a nice white padded room with a jacket with the sleeves in the back. I mean, he really is. I think this guy might just be crazy. And again, this is just some of the stories about him. There's plenty of him like punching walls in his offices and putting holes in the walls. There's the story of CrossGen, where he was such a distraction with his behavior, they kicked him off the compound. And so when he had to work on his book, Ruse, and others with people, they would either have to do it by phone and talk, or they would have to leave the compound and go meet him someplace to discuss the book and then come back, because he was not allowed on the premises. And then, of course, the very famous thing where after the CrossGen has fallen and everything else, and it all went bad in the end, Mark Alessi, the founder of CrossGen, his wife had passed, and Wade sent a black wreath to the funeral with a note on it that says, "What would she think of you now?" This is the kind of guy he is. These are the stories of Mark Wade's life. So you can see, these people like Mark Wade in this industry, it's, they're the reason it's in the state that it is in. These are not good people. They do not have the best interests of anybody or anything else at heart. That's how you get Ram V telling you none of this stuff needs to be respected, because they don't respect it, because they have no respect for anybody or anything but themselves. And Mark Wade is one of the worst. But there are always going to be the defenders. There always will be. This is one I just found really easily. SJW Captain America. I mean, they pretty much tell you right there, Wade is not wrong. If you take offense, it's because you're an alt-right fuckmook. But if you're an alt-right fuckmook who's into comics, it's pretty sure you are already buying overpriced shit from grifters who sell exclusively online only. They don't help comic shops. They don't help comics or comic shops, ever. So this guy is obviously referencing Comicsgate. Of course, he's more broadly generalizing just anybody who does crowdfunding, but I think for our purposes' sake, he's basically talking about Comicsgate, where there's a lot of creators in it who have been very successful with their crowdfunding campaigns, which are exclusively online. But again, as you saw from the stuff I showed you here, people like Wade, well, the reason they're not in shops is because of people like Mark Wade, who tortiously interfere to keep you out of the shops, or the shops themselves do it. Again, Richard C. Meyer, when it was announced he was going to be working with Antarctic Press, there were retailers and little secret retailer groups, like Whisper Networks almost, who said that, they were never going to buy the book. That they wouldn't. Some even said they wouldn't buy it, even if it was a special order. Like somebody came in and said, "I specifically want to buy this comic," and they're not going to order it. You're the retailer. Your job is to order what the people who come into your store want to buy. That's your job. And they're saying, well, no, I'm not going to do my job because we're not going to buy this guy's book. We're not going to support this guy. We're not going to let him make a living at this. So the reason the Comicsgate people aren't in the comic shops is because of people like Mark Waid and retailers like that who work to keep them out. How can they help the comic industry when they're being forced to stay out on the sidelines? And this is why they get angry at people like, say, an Eric July, who said, you know what, I'm going to get around all that by just creating my own publishing company, my own printing company. I'm going to do it all online, and I'm going to go direct for the readers. Although he has sold stuff to stores as well, but I'm going to do that. And they hate him for that because he has now shown that they are truly powerless. Again, this is what it all comes down to. It's all about power and control. These people want to force you to live the way they want. They want you to believe and to think and to see what they want you to see. This is why they've gaslit you for years, telling you comics are booming, industry is doing great. And now we all know that was all a lie. Because people like this defend people like Mark Waid who caused those problems. But there are people who are not, so blind, like Rob Liefeld here, who says, look, woke comic Twitter is absolutely a thing. The sites, podcast personalities, they all sing the same tune. I avoid them as much as possible, and they have zero solutions. Exactly. They have no idea how to help this industry. And they don't care. Again, that's why they're telling you now. That's why the mask is off, and they're just coming out and saying, yeah, burn it all down. I don't care. Better to burn it down than to let those alt-right bigots have any say in things. And why would you do that? Again, it goes back to that very classic line from The Art of War by Sun Tzu, where he says that, a truly horrible enemy will burn down their own society just so they can rule over the ashes. And that's exactly what these people are. Burn the industry down to prevent people we don't like from having a say, and then whatever ashes left, we'll rule those. I mean, it's sad and it's pathetic. Because again, Rob again says here, if you see the old guard making lots of noise of late, purposely being more vocal, there's a reason for all that. Should be better understood in early 2024. Hashtag consolidating. I'm just an informed observer. So there it is. We know what's coming. Again, retailers are sounding alarm bells. Phil Boyle said, 2 years, guys, if you don't get your shit together within 2 years, the direct market is over. It's done. And here's Rob sort of echoing the same sentiments. In early 2024, we're going to see it because what? Probably going to see a lot of layoffs. We've already seen that, in these corporations, Hasbro, Disney, Warner, firing thousands of people because it's so top heavy with all these activists who are destroying the properties that people love, the franchises, the icons, and there's nothing left. And there's no money coming in. They're not making money anymore. And again, this is all coming to a head. Because this is the stuff that they're producing. This right here. A pregnant Joker. Black Lives Matter, F the cops. Climate strike for justice. I mean, climate justice. What the, and this character here, a direct self-insert in the new Hawk Girl book. Talking about food, because that's what they do. But this is a self-insert character that the book is more about her than it is about Hawk Girl. This is why. This is what they've done. This is what they have done to the industry. They have ruined it with this kind of nonsense. But again, just as you saw with Mark Waid, they're really never going to admit it. They can't admit it because if they do, well, then that's certainly going to not look good on them, is it? But, again, others are sounding the alarm bells. There are, some people, they're not just going to sit around and listen, to these gaslighting shills telling them everything is fine and dandy when they know it's not. So now I got a little something here for you. And let's see here. I'll blow this up. Let's pull it back.
I couldn't figure out
what pause it here. Pull that back, and we'll big it up here. There we go. Now this is during one of Mark Millar's streams where he had 3 other retailers, not Glenn O'Leary, on, and this one down here that we're going to be hearing from first. This is the guy from Coliseum of Comics, Phil Boyle, right here. The one Kwanzaa said is, basically a bigot who doesn't know how to sell comics. A guy who owns like 10 shops in Florida. He doesn't know how to sell comics, folks. But they had some interesting stuff to say, and we're going to play this here because I want you to hear what these people are saying. And let me see. We'll speed it up too because I don't want to take forever. This is already being a lot longer than I planned. So let's go ahead and play it.
I couldn't figure out what they're putting in on that. They're including Dogman, which has starting print runs of 5 million. Yeah. They're including every manga out there. When you look at Marvel and DC periodicals, they're not making up a significant portion of anything right now. To give you a quick idea without boring everybody with a lot of numbers and details, our DC sales from 2022 to 2023 have dropped 14%. Marvel has dropped 8%. That may not sound terrible, but if we take out the ratio variance, which means the actual comics people are reading, DC is down 17% across my chain. Marvel is down 24%.
Wow.
Boom is down 73%.
I think part of the inherent problem here, and I don't see this being spoken about, and you may not like hearing this either, Mark, but we need consistent long-term runs and books. Mm-hmm. We need people that stick with the title, and I need publishers to stick with the title. Publishers don't realize how much time it takes to sell a single customer on signing up for a 4-issue miniseries. Mm-hmm. And that's going to translate to me making $8. And if I can convince somebody to buy a series, if Marvel or DC would continue to publish them consistently and not relaunch every year.
And there you go. There you go. Straight from the horse's mouth, folks. Retailers telling you, DC down 17%, Marvel down 24%. These are not good numbers, but yet they will tell you, oh no, comics are doing great. And yet the retailers, they know the story. These are the frontline guys. These are guys in the trenches every day. Who am I going to believe? Mark Waid telling me, oh, no, you're just a right bigot because you don't like diversity. Or am I going to listen to these guys who are there every day dealing with it because it's their job? This is the thing. They can't hide it anymore. They've spent literal years hiding this stuff from us, covering for it, making excuses, calling you a bigot, trying to silence people. And now it's so overwhelming they can't do it. It's like a tidal wave. It's a tidal wave, and they can't silence it anymore. They can't make it stop, and it's scaring them to death. It is absolutely scaring them to death, and it should, but not for the reasons that we think. You'd think it scared them because, oh, well, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, and that's not what they're afraid of. They're afraid of losing power. They're afraid of losing control, because that's what these people are all about. And, so I got some more stuff here to show you. Again, this is the gaslighting that the people are doing. If you give a used car salesman a bunch of broken down garbage, they couldn't sell those either. Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe they could, because they have no morals and scruples. That's the real problem. Maybe these retailers just have morals and scruples and ethics that get in the way of them being able to just sell garbage. Force people to buy garbage that they know is no good. A used car salesman might not have that problem, but even now, in the face of it, you just heard Phil Boyle and the other retailers talking about the problems this industry is facing. The deficits of the major publishers in the mainstream. Boom, down 73% in their stores. A guy with 10 shops in the state of Florida. I think you should listen to that guy. But even in the face of all this, we still have them gaslighting. Again, here's our favorite fake holiday. Where are these subversive self-inserts? Well, I just shown you some of them. You saw those images I showed you. There they are right there. Every current title from Marvel and DC prominently features the same straight white male characters they have for decades. The entire concept of superheroes is political. Well, see, again, that goes back to something I've said before, too. I did that in my stream a little while back where I called it, the comic commissars. Always political equals constantly insufferable. And that's these people. They believe that everything is political. even the personal, even the professional. It's all political for them. There is nothing that is not political. Your personal relationships are political. Your sexual relationships are political. I mean, how ridiculous. But again, this is their mindset. And, nearly every, book from Marvel DC features a straight white male. It's like, but they don't, because they brought in all these diversity characters too. You see it right now where Miles Morales is sharing books with Peter Parker. And again, the characters themselves, even if they are still the quote unquote the same character, they're being written in ways that are not them. Peter Parker worrying about being racist because he beats up Asian criminals in Hong Kong. Making Vixen into a sexual predator, basically. I mean, these are not the characters. This is not what they are. So whether the character is still a straight white male or whatever, it doesn't matter. All the characters are being altered in ways they were never meant to be. Because these people, as Ram V so perfectly said, they don't have any respect for this stuff. They don't have respect for the audience. They don't have respect for the retailers. They don't have respect for the publishers. They don't care. For them, it's all about power and control. And speaking of Ram V, here he is here. Disparu, a very popular YouTuber I've started to watch myself because he just says some good stuff. He goes, "Welcome to the belief caused by the stereotype of the starving artist. What you want to write is irrelevant. You write what the people want. If you don't, you starve." Pretty simple, right? I mean, that's how entertainment works. You make something that the people want, or else you do without and you don't get paid. Because that's like I said. So I said, that's what entertainment is. It's getting paid to produce. More from Leg Kick here. I read an artist say on his post, "Don't buy old dead men's works. They don't need the money." Well, they had talent and made what we loved. Exactly. Again, like I said, that goes back to what I said about how shops, there are retailers who've told me personally that back issues are keeping their doors open. Thank God for my back issues. When there was quality stuff that people wanted to buy. Yeah. But see, again, notice what you said there, Leg Kick, the old dead men. And I'm sure they probably would have thrown in white if they would have thought about it. See, there it is. That tells you, that's the telling thing. They hate certain groups of people, specifically straight white males. Just like Kwanzaa did when he attacked, the characters saying, "Oh, they're still the same straight white males." Because that's who he hates. And that's who all these people hate. But Ram V comes in here. "Welcome to the belief caused by the age of the eternal performer. Everything creative has to be targeted for consumption. Otherwise, starvation." Well, yeah, that's how it works in entertainment. "For ages, art has been motivated by the artist's interest and found commercial success because it is interesting. That hasn't changed." Well, no, what has changed is that the artists aren't interested in doing something that is interesting to the public. See, that's the thing too, is, they created their art, but they did want the public to have interest because they knew that in the end, maybe that would translate to dollars. Now, if they didn't care at all, well, sure, then they just created it and it just sat there and no one cares about it. And we don't even know about it to this day. But then it was never about that then, was it? It was never about getting the audience to accept it. It was never about getting the public to accept it. It was just about, I want to create it so it exists. And that's fine. If you want to make comics that never are going to sell, that's okay. But that's not entertainment. Entertainment is everything creative is targeted for consumption. That's the point of entertainment. You get paid to produce something an audience wants to buy. That is the point. That's what hasn't changed. What's changed is assholes like Ram V and Kwanzaa and Mark Wade have forgotten that fact. If they even remember, if they ever knew it at all, but if they did, they've forgotten it and they don't care. And that's why we're in the state that we're in. Here's another guy, Rollover Queen, another douchebag on the internet, constantly pissing and moaning about EBS, Miller, and those other losers. Funny to call them losers. Ethan Van Sciver with multi-million-dollar campaigns, Mark Millar, multi-millionaire with FU money now. Eric July with multi-million-dollar campaigns under his belt. Yeah, they're losers. If that's being a loser, please tell me where I can sign up to be a loser like those guys, please. I need the money. Doesn't do jack shit for comics outside of the YouTube, Twitter echo chambers. Sure, you got retweets because you shared a screenshot with a dissertation. Doesn't move the needle where it matters outside. Well, two things about this. One is largely he's correct. You know, all the assaults on Mark Millar or even Glenn O'Leary and Phil Boyle and Ethan Van Sciver and all the rest, Comicsgate, it doesn't change anything. You know, the books in the mainstream are still shit. They're still not selling. Retailers are still going out of business. Nothing's changed because they attack Ethan Van Sciver and Mark Millar. That doesn't change anything. So he's absolutely correct that all it does is it just reinforces their own echo chambers. And that's all they care about because they think anyone who's not in that echo chamber, well, you're just, you know, who cares? You're of no value. But I liked it. I found it interesting they used the term move the needle. Because again, if you are someone who's been in the know, which of course you know I am, a few years back, there was a little hashtag by that title called Move the Needle, where people would post pictures of the comics they bought that week to sort of show the companies and the publishers, pardon me again, that this is what we want. This is the good stuff. This is the kind of stuff we find interesting. This is the stuff we find entertaining. Give us more of this, please. And one of the people who most took note of that was publisher Peter Simeti, who is the brainchild behind Alterna Comics. And what Peter would do is whenever the hashtag Move the Needle had Alterna Comics pictured in their post, he would publicly and personally thank that person for supporting his company and their works. You know, something you would think, well, that's just common sense, you know, a businessman who is appreciative of somebody giving them business. Yeah, it would seem easy. But the problem for Peter Simeti is sometimes those people who posted that stuff, they were Comicsgate. And so therefore, the minute he started thanking Comicsgate people, not because they're Comicsgate or he's Comicsgate or he agrees with everything they say, right? Just thanking them because they bought the work from his company. Thank you for supporting our company. That's basically what all his posts boil down to. Because he did that to people they don't like, Peter Simeti had to be canceled. And so they harassed and harangued him online, going so far as to swat him. You know, there's video evidence of this. He was doing a live stream at the time the police showed up at his house. And all this stuff drove Pete Simeti to the brink of wanting to commit suicide. Now, let me also add in here, Peter Simeti is Asian American. He's supposedly one of the quote-unquote marginalized people, the people like Mark Wade and Ram V and Kwanzaa and all the rest of them, they all care about those marginalized people so much, those downtrodden people by the white man. And yet, here they were trying to destroy one of those people of color because he dared to thank people that they didn't like. That was it. So I think it's funny this guy used the term move the needle, considering what those like him did when others used that term. But, you know, he doubles down with the stupidity on this. It goes even further. It's going to take EVS not being here anymore for the comic book community to move on from him. I've been in the game for a few years now, and he's been a constant. That's solely because despite that N-word showing his ass constantly, the community keeps shining light on him. Again, 2 points here. One is, yes, the latter part is correct. You know, the more they harass and harangue somebody like Ethan Van Sciver or Mark Millar or whoever, that does give them more attention and more eyeballs, and more people will see it, and more people will then look into it, and then they may find out that what these people like them say about them isn't true. See, that's why he's worried about shining light on him. You know, because if people dig into this, they might find that we're in the wrong, and you can't have that. So better to be silent about it. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I call it the Trump effect, because that's what they do to him. Think about it. We've all seen recently, if you've been paying any attention at all, Trump is dominating in the polls right now. More than he ever has. He didn't have this in 2016. He didn't have it in 2020. But right now, he is dominating. Not just against the competitors in the Republican primary, but even against the Democratic contenders. And, what are they doing? They're attacking him 24/7 every day. Lawfare and, call him Hitler, everything they can think of to try to knock him down. And the more they do it, the more he goes up in the polls. Because when was the worst time Trump had in the polls in recent times? It was probably like middle of 2021 when, he was out of office and no one was talking about him anymore, or very rarely. So the minute they stopped talking about him, his value went way down. But now that they're talking about him 24/7, boom. And, this is the same phenomenon here. You attack Ethan Van Sciver, you attack Mark Millar, you attack, insert whoever it is you want to attack, Eric July, and you just make them trend. You get people seeing their stuff, you get people seeing their posts, you get people hearing what they got to say. You're giving them a platform whether you want to or not. We saw Rich Johnson earlier here complaining about that, about why he didn't want to talk about this stuff because he was afraid of giving a platform to these people. And so, this guy is true. That's true about shining light. That's what happens when you attack someone that way. I know that, again, from personal experience in history. I remember, did you guys remember the 80s horror Christmas classic, Silent Night, Deadly Night? I was about 10 years old at the time, but even I remember on TV, the news media, even briefly talking about it, about these picketing people who were standing outside these uptight people who were standing out with picket signs and, boycotting the movie and all this other stuff, trying to get people not to go see it. And what ended up happening? It made more people go see the movie than would have probably otherwise. Because when you draw people's attention to something, even if it's something you hate, they're going to go and look at it. That's just human nature. And so he's right on all that. But the real big thing is that first sentence he says at the top. It's going to take EVS not being here anymore for the comic community to move on from him. Not being here anymore. What does that mean? Does that mean not being in the mainstream? Because that's already true. He hasn't been in the mainstream for years. Is it what I mean from comics in general, meaning he can't even produce his own comics? Because again, they've tried so hard to cancel him and make it so he can't even make the comics. Or is it something darker? Like, I don't know, assassination? Is he calling for somebody to assassinate Ethan Van Sciver? Because I wouldn't put it past these people to do so. Again, these are the same people who, like I said, who are calling Trump literally Hitler and saying that if he's reelected, it'll be the end of democracy. It'll be a dictatorship. Now, why would you say something like that about somebody unless you had concrete evidence to prove something like that? Because they're hoping that some crazy leftist loon with a gun will go out and kill him. And then they've got the perfect plausible deniability. Well, we never said to kill Trump. We just said, oh, sure, we said he's like Hitler and he's going to be a dictator if he's elected. But we never said go kill him. But yet they got the result that they wanted. And I see this is very much the same thing. This guy is trying to infer somebody needs to kill Ethan Van Sciver. And, it's not as if Ethan's never dealt with this before. There's the guy, what was his name? Mike Wellman, I think was his name. He had a comic shop in San Francisco, I think, and it went out of business. And he spent weeks harassing Ethan Van Sciver and even threatened his life. And not like the veiled threats like you see with Mark Wade with his wood chipper. I mean, direct threat. He said he was going to blow his face off with a gun. Literally. A direct death threat. And I think that's what this guy here is trying to do. See, this is how far they're willing to go. They're trying to wind up some crazies, hoping that they'll take out these people that they hate. And then they can say, "Oh, well, I never said to kill him. I just mean him not to be in the, he needs not to be here anymore. Meant not to be in the comic book industry. I didn't mean for him to kill him." I mean, they think they're slick, and they're really not. These people. Of course, here's more with Heather Anto showing that, again, the classic gaslighting, showing you that classic IVC2 bar graph. But your boy Zach comes in and, does like a community notes from Twitter on her and goes, 40% of your coworkers were laid off this year and IDW was delisted for the New York Stock Exchange. The massive bump in sales is due to manga, YA graphic novels, and crowdfunding being added to the sales report. You're welcome. And it's true. It's true. When you break down into the numbers, it's absolutely the truth, And then we get to the real gaslighter, Gail Simone. Now, this one is interesting because, again, as we all know, as I've shown you here and in other streams in the past, Gail is a part of the Whisper Network. So much so that they went to the trouble to try to protect her from what they perceived was an attack on her by Mark Millar, referencing, Penny Parker's upcoming book, which, again, he wasn't doing that, but that's what they thought. And so they immediately got on their attack dogs out and they went after him for it because why? Because got to protect Gail Simone for some reason. But she knows she's a part of the Whisper Network. And here, she even sort of admits to it, but then backpedals from it. And this is what she does. I said this recently, but once again, I used message boards. They were busy and fun, but over time, I didn't like how clicky they got, including mine, including me, and I quit using them and never made another. One day, I just lost interest entirely. When do you think that loss of interest was? Was it with Penny Parker's exposure of your secret Facebook groups and clubs and little message forums, where she exposed what you guys were doing behind the scenes, out of view of people in the dark? Was that around the time you lost interest, Gail? Because I think that's probably when she did. Continuing. The same thing happened engaging with Comicsgate. I just lost interest. The really vicious trolls slowed down a bit. The art I've seen just over the transom looks improved. Some people are making their comics. That's all I know. I have no idea about who the players are anymore. I am still not interested. I gather some have been very successful, but I don't know many of the details. Who is in or out? No idea. But there's a faction of them that's still trying to portray this as some ongoing battle. Guys, I lost interest. Well, if you lost interest, Gail, then you wouldn't be talking about it right now. But of course she is, because we know she hasn't lost interest. It's a lie. More gaslighting. For me, it's all about how I would rather spend my time and what's fun to be part of. You can keep attacking me like you do, but it looks a little ridiculous because I'm over somewhere off making jokes about Godzilla taint, not slavishly following this stuff. That's it. I realize this won't change anything for the hardcore faction. Doesn't matter either way. Have a good day, everyone. So then why is she saying anything? If she knows it's not going to change anything, why say it? Well, the reason to say it is so now she has the plausible deniability, see? So that when more stuff comes out, when Penny Parker books come out, and when other books that maybe will come out about this stuff, and they show, she can say, "Oh, well, see, I said that was years ago. I have no stake in any of this. I haven't been involved in that for a long, long time. I even told you that." She's a snake. This is a woman who got her foot in the door by basically calling every man in the industry a misogynist for how they treated women made of paper and ink in stories of fiction. She has done plenty to attack people. Hell, in my last live stream before this one, I showed you where she attacked someone who said they had no interest in seeing the Marvels because they're just done with the MCU, and they say, it could be a good movie, but I'll never know because I just have no interest in this stuff anymore. They've burned me out. And she attacked them saying, oh, this might be a great post to read, but I'm not going to because I just have no interest. So there it is, attacking people still to this day, Gail Simone. But yet, I'm out of this stuff. I don't really pay attention to this stuff anymore. Putting up posts about I really like the Dave Cockrum, Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel costume. And it's all so she can have plausible deniability when all this comes out. See, again, the truth can't be held back anymore by these people. The lies about the state of the industry, the lies about what they've done and to who, it's all coming out now. The dam is cracking and it's about to burst, and they know it. So now they're scrambling to either obfuscate further, hoping no one will pay attention, or they're pulling what Gail is here and trying to deny. Oh, I'm not involved in any of this. No, not me. I have no say in any of this stuff. I've been out of this for a long, long time. Plausible deniability. That's what they're after now. And here's our other favorite Whisper Network shill, Heidi McDonald. I have a thought experiment for you all. Imagine if a retailer made a video about a comic they really loved that they wished more people would buy and order, that showed passion and love for comics and the industry. Would you share it the way you do the negative ones? Well, would you share it, Heidi? What if it was for a Comicsgate book, made by somebody from Comicsgate? Or what if it was something from the Ripperverse from Eric July? And they shared their love of that. Would you share it? Oh, no, you wouldn't. Oh, but I thought it's about trying to pump up positivity. Oh, well, not that positivity. And I love Subtle Deviants here who basically nails her on her duplicity here. What if they only shared their love of it in Whisper networks like the ones you utilize to blackball people in comics? Love it. Very to the point. And then more denials and obfuscation from Heidi. It was a private Facebook group. Literally everyone is in one. You can keep up your hysteria, though. See, again, it's just a conspiracy theory. There's no Whisper networks. That's not a real thing. That's an alt-right talking point. You know, that's what she's saying here. And it's a private Facebook group. Everybody's in one, literally, except I'm not. Now, I'm not on Facebook anymore, but even when I was on Facebook, I wasn't in any private groups. I was in a couple public ones, but I was never in a private Facebook group. My wife, she's still on Facebook. She's not in any private Facebook groups. So there's two people right there. So her literally everyone is a lie, because there's two people right here who don't. And you notice the big thing, though, is while she tries to play it off as just hysteria, she doesn't deny what this person says. You know, how they utilize their whisper networks to blackball people in comics. And she just says it was a private Facebook group. You know, she doesn't deny what it is that they actually did in there. You know, she tries to cover it up saying it's just hysteria to think about the word whisper network. That's just an alt-right talking point. That's just a conspiracy theory. But she doesn't deny that she did these things. See, that's the telling thing about this. See, it's so bad now, they can't even cover up for their own lies. They can't think of lies good enough to hide what everyone already knows. That's how you know it's breaking down, when the propagandists can't propagandize you about it anymore. And that brings us to Valerie D'Orazio, who, again, is a person who was once in the comic industry, probably most notable for her work in DC and exposing the identity crisis storyline where they had Sue Dibney, the wife of Elongated Man, raped by Dr. Light, who then the JLA used Zatanna's magic to turn him into a moron, and they use it to mind wipe Batman because he was the only one that spoke up and said he didn't think this was right to do. And, you know, she famously said that in the meeting, somebody said, "We need a rape." That's what they said. That's what she said. She said to happen in there. So darkness within the comic book industry for a long time. So she's been involved in this stuff before. And I saw this, and it really hit me of just how bad things actually are. The goal of a number of comic industry media professionals has been, for a while, to see the direct market finally collapse, making bookstores and libraries the main places to carry comic book material. They want this to take place for several reasons. One, from a business perspective, is much more likely for bookstores and libraries to purchase and support the specific material they produce. That is the woke nonsense, the altering of the classic icons, the gaying them up, the replacing men with women and people of color and all this other stuff. That's what she's talking about. And the drive for numbers and profits aren't so much of an immediate issue as with the direct market space, i.e., there's no retailers to complain about it. Rather than graphic novels and such are treated more like rarefied entity in the book space, more like beautiful ideas that just exist on their own merit and are buoyed by PR. And then, of course, there are those there's the hope that the rights get purchased for TV or movies, which these days is largely the direct goal of an increasing number of comic creators. Comics are literally glorified storyboard pitch proposals rather than an entity that exists on its own merit as a comic book for an audience to be cultivated. Exactly. See, there it is. She's talking about this is why you see it, like why you saw, again, from Mark Waid specifically here, but even from others. Again, you've seen my past sequential thinking pieces. I've showed you again and again the disdain, the utter disdain these people have for the retailers and for the readers of comics. They don't want us. They hate us. They want us to go away. And this is more what they want. They want it where the books are just bought on principle. You know, a library is just going to buy books to have books in the library. They're not going to worry about the quality. They're not going to worry about whether it's profitable. You know, a retailer worries about that. Readers might worry about that. But a library, they're not going to worry about that. A bookstore, they're not going to worry about that. They just want to fill their shelves up with product. And that's what they want. Again, like there's that famous tweet I've shown from Kelly Sue DeConnick many times, where she said that, you know, things would be much better if the corporations that own the IPs of the characters of these publishers, if they stopped seeing, you know, them as IP farms and more as the R&D department. That would be better for everybody. And by everybody, she means her and her ilk of activist creators. That's what she meant. It would be better for them because then now they don't have to worry about creating a product that's profitable. That's what this all comes down to. That's why they hate retailers. That's why they hate the reader base, because they want quality and they demand something be profitable. And they don't want that anymore. They want to be able to do what they want, when they want, how they want, whenever they want, and not be called out for it. And if they attack others online for it, they don't want there to be ramifications for that. They don't want people to stop buying the work and then get them fired or get them to lose the book where the book gets canceled. They don't want to have to worry about that stuff. Give me a job where I can continue to attack the reader base as I want, attack the retailers as I want, and it doesn't matter because I'm never going to suffer for it. That's what they want, and that's what this model she's talking about would give them. That is why they hate us so much. 2, there is a class bias against direct market comic book stores in favor of the more dignified bookstores and libraries scenario. This reflects a long-standing embarrassment on the part of some comic industry professionals and scholars regarding ye local comic shops, which they often, mostly in private, cast as being run and patronized by low-class, uncouth proletariat barbarians. The comic book guy from The Simpsons is often invoked. Again, see, the disdain they hold for the very people they need. They need you for your money. They need the retailer's money, and they need the reader's money to keep the retailers in business, to keep giving them money. And they hate us for that. They hate us for that. Part of the reason they feel this way is their own insecurities, because, of course, they are the cool comic fans. They're not nerds themselves. And another part of the reason they feel this way is because they are, to a degree, snobs. But because, of course, they can't be snobs because they're so egalitarian and enlightened, they will often, especially in public, cast these great unwashed comic reading masses as mostly women-hated, closet-minded Trump supporters. Trump, by the way, was one of the best things that ever happened to the comics elite. He was their Ozymandias giant squid. Yes, he is the one more than anybody else who is responsible for this. You know, he is the one, you know, who truly broke this. Again, I'll tell you just a quick side note here, a story from a creator I talked with. I won't give you their name because I don't want to make them a target of these people. But they said that, you know, back in like late 2012 or early 2013, you know, back when Obama had just won re-election, they were at a convention and they were talking to some other creators who were left wing. And, you know, and they had no problem hearing them talk about their more conservative values and conservative beliefs. They had no problem with that. They didn't see it as a problem then. And, you know, he says the reason why they thought that then is because, well, Obama had just won re-election. They had all their hands on all the levers of power, academia, entertainment, the, you know, Silicon Valley, you know, Washington, D.C. They had all the levers of power in their hand. So they felt, let those conservatives have their little fantasies about their values and whatever. Who cares? It's just words. They can't do anything about it. And then came along Trump. And he did 2 things. First of all, he showed them that their power was not going to be forever, that it can be taken away, even if just a little bit. And that angered them. That's why they went at him so hard for 4 years. But in the interim, it has shown how weak they truly are, because the second thing it shows is this is why they haven't calmed down about any of it. It's because by showing them that they can lose power, now they are terrified they'll lose it again. Hell, just look at what's happening right now with Trump. That's why they're doing all they're afraid of him getting back into power, because that means they will lose power. I told you, it all comes down to power. This is what it is. So that's why you had creators in the past. It seemed like the left and the right could at least work together because, we don't take the politics so seriously. But after Trump, that all changed. And the people on the left have lost their minds, and they've never regained it. They lost power, a little bit of power for a short time, and they didn't like it. It angered them. And then on top of that, it made them fearful that, well, if this happened once, it could happen again. That's why they haven't calmed down. That's why you think, oh, well, after Trump lost, they should have went back to normal, right? No, they didn't. They got even worse because now they're afraid. They're afraid to death of losing power. Got some more from Leg Kick here. And then they wonder why they fail. Yeah, you know what? I don't think they do wonder. I think they just don't care. And I think they're so far into their bubble that they think that just because they say, well, there's alt-right Nazi bigots, That's it. That's their answer. Well, that's why we're failing. So it's alt-right Nazi bigots. People know when you don't like them. Restaurants and stores fail when they treat customers with disdain, let alone books. Exactly. And again, this is why, as she's stating here, that's why they want the library, bookstore model, so that they don't have to worry about that kind of thing. We can treat them however we want, and they have what is it? They have no power. They can't affect us. We're going to get paid irregardless. We're going to make our money irregardless. We can treat them like dirt. And it doesn't matter because they can do nothing about it. See, this is what it comes down to. This is why they're so angry at Glenn O'Leary and Peter Boyle and Mark Millar, because they're exposing to people that you do have power. They've lied to you about it, about how bad things are. Yes, but you do have power. You can make them suffer. And they know this and they hate this. That's why they hate you so much. They don't like you have anything over on them. And continuing with Valerie's thing here, I don't have a horse to run in this whole debate. I have nothing to sell you. No comics, no pitches, nada. Not anymore. I'm just telling you this because it is the way it is. And honestly, these people may succeed in the demise of the direct market. And if you point blank ask them about it, they will be the first to tell you that nothing would give them more joy. Again, we've seen this. This is what we're seeing now with Mark Wade and Ryan Higgins and others. Just coming out and just saying, burn the industry down. If it's a choice between giving some power to these people we hate to save it or to burn it down, burn it. Even though the heart of what made this comic book lore, canon, mythology so rich and vast in the 70s and 80s was linked with the fan and comic book shop matrix. A place where fans shared ideas, met other fans in person, and then took that energy and magic to the conventions. And the local comic store has been, especially in many small towns, working class areas, etc., this traditional hub for the young people who had an interest in fantasy art and literature to discover these characters for the first time and build little communities of fans on their own. See, again, there it is. But what does all that mean? Power. These people have power. They can alter things. They can change an industry. They can make it so it doesn't do what the people in power want it to do. They want to put out the woke crap and make it sell, but it doesn't sell because the people reject it and say, we're not spending our money on this. And that's power over these snobs, these elitist snobs that she's talking about in the industry. These politically elitist snobs, otherwise known as cancel pigs. And that's why they hate the retailers. It's why they hate the reader base. It's why they've worked so hard to drive both of those things away. All for a quote-unquote audience that never showed up. Because in the end, it didn't matter if they showed up or not. Because it was more about taking something away from those they hate. Here's another one I found here. Grums, who says, here's how the weaponized cancel culture works. Game companies and movie companies hire many PR firms. These PR firms employ botnets and paid attack dogs to drive metrics on which they are rated and paid. Companies have plausible deniability, as cancel pigs are 2 tiers lower than I didn't get all it, but they're 2 tiers lower than the execs in charge. If the company is ever caught doing it, they can blame the rogue PR firm and fire them. Again, this is what we're talking about. This is the cancel pigs, your Renfamouses. She's a paid political actor. She's admitted in the past she did this. She used to do it for the Republicans, believe it or not. And now she does it for leftists in the comic book industry. That's what they are. They're these crisis actors who come in and stir things up to create the controversies so that they can drive the metrics. The metrics which are used then to either silence or subdue the revolt of the consumers. That's what they're there for. This is what's happening. This is what the cancel pigs are all about. And we come here to the great Eric July, who gives you even more details on the state of this industry. Here's something you have to understand to make sense of the cancel pig. Mainstream comics have always been built on a house of cards. The direct market on top of that was always retarded. When you dive into it, you easily begin to question if it ever made money, the comics that is. The publications have almost never been profitable. There's a reason why Marvel has changed ownership so many times and the rights were split. Executives saw more value in TV, movies, and merch than they ever did with the actual comics. For decades, they've been needed to be largely subsidized by parent companies. It's been like this for DC since they were conceptualized. With that being said, being tied to megacorporations has been their greatest benefit. Effectively, Marvel and DC are the sugar daddies of the industry. They are the ones that can still exist in their capacity despite substantial losses. There are very few people in comics that can call their own shots, meaning they can exist outside the mainstream, surviving just fine. 99% of these guys are not the actual draw, and many people have found out the hard way trying to do things independently and not attached to a massive property. So what he's talking about is this is how you can see someone like, let's say, Scott Schneider, who I know everyone loved his Batman run. I personally didn't think it was all that great, but I know some people do, so let's just use him. He has a great Batman run. Oh, Scott Schneider's Batman is awesome. Okay, great. Then he goes out and he tries to crowdfund a book for a concept that is nothing at all to do with Batman. It's his own creation that has nothing to do with anything else, nothing to do with an established, iconic IP. And what happens? It fails. Or maybe it doesn't fail, but he's not making the kind of money doing that he was making doing Batman. And why is that? Because there's nobody to back him up. There's no corporation who says, if this doesn't sell enough copies, we'll still make sure you get paid. That's what they have with the corporate megastructures, in Marvel and DC. The comics are largely loss leaders. Again, I showed you in the past, there was the one, what was it, from last year, where Jim Lee came out and said 25% of the books DC Comics was publishing were not making money. Not just breaking even, mind you, they were losing money on those books. And again, they put out at the time, 60 books a month? That's 15 books a month they're putting out that is absolutely making you no money. What company could put out products that, where 1/4 of their products don't make the money and still stay afloat? So this is what he's talking about. This is the setup that has been for so long. This is what they're trying to protect. This is what all their obfuscation and lies and gaslighting is all about, so that you don't see this. This is what they don't want you to know. So the weirdos are going to fight like hell, lie, and be delusional when it comes to the decline of the comic industry because it's in their best interest. Should the current structure crumble or fundamentally change, most aren't making it on the other side. They need that sugar daddy, and anything that threatens it is a problem. It's not just about ideology. It's also both economic and about their comfort and their sensibilities. Exactly. This is why they come at you so hard. You'd say to yourself, why do they care so much if I say their book sucks? Why do they care so much if I'm siding with retailers on this issue? Why does it matter to them so much? Why are they coming at us so hard? Why are they calling us alt-right Nazis for this? Just because I say the work sucks because it actually does. This is why. Because when you start saying things like that, you start to expose this. And that is their meal ticket. And if it goes away, as he says here, most of them aren't making it on the other side. If this changes, if the industry changes, if this model changes from this, I'd say a good 75% to 90% of the people who are in comics right now will not have a job. They will be gone. And they know this. Mark Waid, Gail Simone, Kwanzaa, they all know they're out of a job. They're never going to get work again. And so this is why they come at everyone so hard when people try to talk about this stuff. Because they can't let the truth be known. Because the truth will bring it all down around their ears. And again, as if to make the point, here's Heidi McDonald. Just a notice, if you come at me with garbage today, you get blocked. Garbage like what Eric July just said. That's what happens. So when they can't silence you, they'll just ignore you. And hope you just tire? As if all this is just going to stop just because they're not listening to it? La 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 la, I can't hear you, la 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 la. And of course, she's not the only one. Here's Bitch Blue Mark Waid. If you're looking to comment on any of my posts, I'm disabling commenting for a while. Sorry, only way to mass block the army of trolls who are deeply offended over my opinions about the alt-right. Happy holidays. So there it is again. He makes the comments, he says this stupid shit, and then rather than own to it, says, "Oh, I just gotta like lock down the comments so no one can say anything," because the alt-right. Again, people I don't agree with. This is their mindset. This is their mindset. This is their mentality. Then we got this here from a guy called Classic Era Marvel. And I thought this was great because he kind of goes into the cultural side. A lot of this I've shown you has been the business side of things. But there's a culture to this too. And he kind of goes in on this. And I like this, the way he put it. So we're going to get into this right here. Two schools of thought are talking about the reasons behind the decline of the comic book industry in the U.S. The industry, which has been dominated by the big two for the last 80 years, seems rudderless. Both DC and Marvel are pushing a narrative that is making one thing certain: the closure of local comic stores. The reason? Declining sales. In order to understand the cause, the terms Comicgate and cancel pigs are being thrown around to shut up the opposing side in a discussion. For those not aware, Comicgate is a movement led by Ethan Van Sciver, well, that's questionable, but against progressivism, while cancel pigs is a term coined by Mark Millar to call out the virtue-signaling sociopaths who don't read comics and who want to take down any writer or artist who doesn't agree with their own views on marriage, orientation, and gender. Worse examples to highlight are the Orson Scott Card and Howard Chaykin, whose careers have been destroyed due to their personal views, which have nothing to do with their writing of superheroes or comics in general. Yet their socio-political leanings and activities outside of the industry is what has gotten them canceled. One school of thought believes that the superheroes must be kept true to their original idea or conceptualization and should be developed or redefined only when needed to meet expectations of the readers based on their level of maturity. This group consists of writers and artists who have been responsible for major successes in the past within the industry, not only with Marvel and DC, but also the indies. These writers and artists are not exclusively conservative at a socio-political level. They just believe that comics and superheroes need to resonate with readers like they used to without being subjected to identity politics or DEI directives through cancel culture. For many in this group, superheroes are defined by their values, which are a result of their circumstances envisioned by their creators and not their skin color, sexual orientation, or gender. Contrary to popular belief, this group is not a fan of Comicsgate Ethan Van Sciver and represents writers and artists from different backgrounds, ethnicity, religious, and otherwise. This group can be called the good comics group that knows, reads, and writes comics and wants to publish more based on their past successes, such as Mark Millar, Rob Liefeld, and Chuck Dixon, with up-and-coming publisher-writer Eric July and artist Cliff Richard and colorist Gabe L.T. Abe. They truly care for the readers and the local comic book store owners. So there you go. That's who we are, guys. He's just expressed who we are. This is us. The good comics group, that's us. Because we believe the characters, they have their own voice. They have, they need to be kept to their original conceptualization of what they are and what they are about. And if you change something, it better be for damn good reasons that are relevant to the character, not relevant to your political ideology or, relevant to a social topic of the day, but relevant to the character. That's what we want. The other group believes that superheroes need to be redefined in their own personal image based on their socio-political leanings, even if the industry burns down to the ground due to the loss of sales because of disgruntled readers. For these writers and artists, their beliefs make them holier than thou and makes everyone disagreeing with them an alt-right Comicsgate activist. For them, bringing back successful writers and editors of the past would put old white men in charge. They think that Chris Claremont was successful with X-Men because he defined characters based on his personal socio-political leanings, when in fact, they forget that Lee and Kirby, who also co-created war comic Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos, as well as the good capitalist Tony Stark, laid the foundation of the X-Men around the issue of social justice centering on discrimination. Claremont remained true to the foundation and produced stories that remained unmatched to this day. This group wants to use superheroes as a medium to convey their own personal leftist ideology, even if it comes at the expense of sales. Two quotes worth being highlighted here are, And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book by Kelly Sue DeConnick. And I think a lot of us would just rather see the industry burn down than get together with the alt-right. I know I would. Sorry, Mark Wade, in his response to a comment on his Facebook post. He has labeled anyone who disagrees with his condescending post about Millar as alt-right while acknowledging that the very same people make some strong points. We stand with the good comics group. We agree with Mark Millar and those advocating the same without being disrespectful to writers and artists who oppose what Millar has said, including the legendary Mark Wade, blah, 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 who need to turn on his rhetoric. There it is. So here it is. This is the divide. This is what all of this has been about from day one. The people who see comics for what they are, the characters for what they are, who believe that they are based upon their values, not their skin color or their gender or who they have sex with, and the people who believe opposite, who think that their ideology is what matters and that that's what you do. And it doesn't matter if that's not what the character is about. It matters that your ideology is the one that is put to the forefront. This is the core of what's been going on for the last decade, at least. And, you know, again, as you see here, this guy says he stands with the good comics group. Now, I'm sure, you know, Wade would call this guy an alt-right Nazi. But again, look at how well it expresses it. And again, he brought out the famous Kelly Sue line. You know, one of the most stupid things, probably just about the stupidest thing ever said in the history of comics. And that should tell you something about where all this is going and why. Now, this is a little postscript that came up just before I was getting ready to do this. Supposedly, Mark Wade had posted about a GoFundMe for a woman who has endometriosis and is trying to help her out, according to him. And what happened is he got pissed off about comments that were left there. So I'm going to read this to you so you can check this out. Earlier today, I posted a GoFundMe link supporting a woman long suffering from endometriosis and in dire need of surgery. If you missed it, I'm relinking it below. I could have limited comments and viewing to friends, but I thought it was important to circulate the message as widely as possible. It took the Comicsgate and alt-right trolls less than an hour to try to overrun the comments section with now deleted hate about totally unrelated grievances. So basically saying they came in and started attacking him, you know, for his other nonsense that we've seen here on this post. I point this out to remind you how truly bottomlessly awful these people are. If you think normal comics folks would overreact to their tantrums, I will ask you to consider how sick and twisted and pathetic someone has to be to troll a post not about comics, not about politics, not even about me in any way, although he's making it about him now, isn't he? But about a desperate woman in constant pain from endometriosis who wants nothing more than to not suffer every day. What kind of grotesque, sad soul would pour hate into that thread? Not for 1 second considering how hurtful it might be to this woman and her family, who I know will be following that post and its comments. These are the same professional victims who say the most despicable things imaginable, and then scream bloody murder because liberals and SJWs aren't willing to see things their way and give them a hug. They are a cancer on the industry. Full stop. I want my tombstone to read, fuck Comicsgate. Now, again, notice though, he says all this, but where are the receipts? Where are all these hateful comments that were on there? Now, of course, you saw what he said on here with now deleted hate. So why did you delete them all? Why did you delete all this stuff? This would have proven once and for all, right? That these comic heroes are a bunch of alt-right Nazis. Look at how evil they are. They're attacking a post about a woman trying to survive endometriosis. See, I mean, again, for the last 2.5 hours, you've been here with me. You've seen me bring the receipts. I've shown you the post, their own words. I've clipped them all so you can see what they say in their own words. It's not me making it up. It's not me telling you what they said and it's all third hand and accounts and whatnot. No, directly. This is what they say. Here it is. I bring you the receipts. I always have done that with these discussions. Every time. Because to me, it's important. If you're going to talk about something, you got to know what you're talking about and you got to prove what you're talking about. But see, that's the difference between the good comic group and Wade's comic group. They don't feel the need to show you any receipts. He says that there were all these comments, and yet when I saw someone go to the post, there was only 3 posts on it. 2 of them, I think, from people who were family members of the woman, thanking him for, whatever help this may give. There was no hate. I didn't see any. Now he says, oh, it's now deleted. Well, why didn't you screen cap them? It's very easy to don't you screen cap them and then post them up where people can see them? Look at all this hate. Look at all this hate. But they don't. It's the same thing with everything else. Heather Antos and the milkshake girls. Oh, we got death threats from her sexual harassment friend. They're going to rape us. Well, where are they? Oh, I can't show them to you. It's too triggering. It's too hurtful. Oh, so you got all these death threats and rape threats, but you can't show them. You can't show the receipts of you getting them. You see, this is what they do. This is how the game is played with them. All you need is accusation. Accusation is enough when it's the other side. Mark Wade making the accusation that there was all this hate put on his post. That's all you need to prove that Comicsgate is evil. Whereas Comicsgate, if they did something, if someone from Comicsgate did a post like this and somebody from their side came and said, well, you better have like the posts and all the replies, and you better have the dates, and you better have the guy's home address, but you can't post it because, well, that'd be doxing and that'd be evil. So, but you better have all this evidence to back you up to prove exactly what. And then even if you do all that, they'd be like, well, that person doesn't speak for all of us. They're just an individual. They're just a loon who did this. They don't speak for all the rest of us who feel the same way. But yet, let a Comicsgate person say something that's over the line, and everybody in Comicsgate obviously agrees with that. You see, this is the way they play this game. They have to villainize the people they hate. And why do they do that? For one simple reason. So that way, whatever they do, whatever they say, can be seen as justified. See, look at what Mark Wade said here. He called them cancer. He called them despicable. He called them, what was it? What was the one he called them? Truly bottomless awful. Grotesque, sad souls. This things he called these people with no evidence to back up what he's saying. But yet, that accusation alone, that's all he needs. And he's justified now. Oh, well, they did this to me, so I'm justified. Got some more from Leg Kick here. Alt-right wanting good stories, good art, and quality. Throwing money at pieces of crap agrees with their politics. Well, yeah, that's what it comes down to, really. But, but like I'm saying here, it's like, this is the thing. They vilify you because they need the excuse. Because, again, you saw Mark Wade and Bill Sienkiewicz and others who made veiled or direct threats of violence. And we all would agree here, that's wrong. You don't do it. You don't make threats of violence on people. That's so wrong. That's evil. But see, they need to see it as it's okay when they do it. See, it's okay to do it to those Comicsgaters. It's okay to do it to Eric July and the Ripperverse. It's okay to do it to people that don't agree with us politically because they're alt-right fuck mooks. That's okay to do to them. They're Nazis. That's why they call you these things. That's why they use those terms to justify their own evil, their own hatred. Because if this went the other way, they would tell you, oh my God, that's totally unjustified. You can't, you look at the way he's supposedly reacting to getting hate. And yet I just showed you here all the stuff in his past. And there's probably even more than that we don't know about. But even just the ones that I showed here shows you a man who is truly evil himself. And yet he would want you to believe he's a victim. That's what's funny. He says, these same professional victims. Who's the professional victim here, Mark Wade? It's you. You who've wrecked retailers' lives, their business, who've thrown things at, who've assaulted them in retail summits. You who've threatened your fellow colleagues with violence because their stuff spills over onto a table at a show. You who call people racist and misogynistic in posts that had nothing to do with racism or misogyny whatsoever. You're the professional victim, Mark Wade. This is all projection. And this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. But again, like I say, it's interesting to watch all this go down. You know, it's really, I don't know, almost surreal, you could say. And so I got just a little bit more stuff here for you before we end this out here. Okay, now this is from The Beat. This is Heidi McDonald's little website. And this is from a story called Comics Aren't Dying, But They're Changing, and that's got people scared. Now, you would think, is she talking about them? The Mark Wades, the Gail Simones? No, she's not about them. She's talking about the Glenn O'Learys and the Mark Millars and, you know, the Eric Julys. Those are the people who are scared. And we're going to get into this because I found it, you know, the level of gaslighting is almost surreal. It's been a pretty wild week in comics. The kind of week that only anxiety and fear can bring about. After years of steady sales growth. And again, we're going to see here in a minute just how much of a lie that is. Comics retail and most U.S. retail has hit a rough patch. Now, see, now right here, she's already hitting it off with trying to tell you, oh, hey, you know, it's no big deal what's happening here. This is all fine and dandy. You know, it's just a rough patch. Everybody's suffering right now. It's under the economy of Joe Biden, who I'm sure that Heidi McDonald voted for. But here it is. She's already trying to gaslight it like, oh, it's no big deal. Comics had record sales for years. And, there's a rough patch right now, but it'll be okay. It's no big deal. The signs are everywhere. But getting accurate information without getting into a lot of drama has been especially tough this week. So I'm going to lay out some links and some quotes and try to paint a picture as best I can. Now here, note the key there. Paint a picture, not present the facts, not present the data and the evidence. Paint a picture. She wants you to see this the way she wants you to see this, not the way it actually is. And you're going to see that as we go through this. But before I start, here's a quote from a comic magazine from '83. And, you know, comic books, as we know them, have run their course, said Joe Simon, the co-creator of Captain America and one of the most successful and prolific Golden Age creators. When you are only printing 250,000 copies of Superman, you have to see the handwriting on the wall. As the quote acknowledges, Superman once sold 1.2 million copies a month. Comicron has known listings from the 60s on, but this not this gaudy number, which is most likely from the 1940s. So again, just trying to dismiss it. Oh, well, that's from a long time ago. It doesn't matter. It's from the 1940s. Who cares? A period when comics routinely sold 1 million copies a month. It was also a time when there was no internet, barely any TV, and banana was an exotic vegetable, and there is no comparing that number to today's sales. So again, just brushing aside the history of these books at one point sold in the millions of copies. That's important. You would think that matters, but not to Heidi McDonald. Oh, that's just irrelevant nonsense. Who cares? What does the quote tell us? That the comics are dying narrative has a persistent and long history. It also tells us that overall periodic comic sales have been declining for a long time since their peak in the 40s and 50s, pre-Frederick Wortham, and occasional bursts of millions of sellers since then. They're talking about like the X-Force 1, Spider-Man 1, X-Men #1 by Jim Lee in the 90s. Yes, I'm sure. See, here it is. She dragged it out. There it is, folks. The very famous bar graph that we all have seen, they've used every time. But she makes a mistake in it that you'll see here in a moment. The comics are also been a sales pitch for various independent creators for more than 5 years. Again, this is veiled reference to Comicsgate. The above graphic from the presentation at the 2023 New York Comic Con has been much quoted to show that comics objectively were not dying for the last 5 years. Oh, but what about the comics periodicals you are asking right now? Well, it isn't as easy to get the numbers on that, but charts from the same presentation show the orange bar representing the periodical level sales fluctuating over the last period, while graphic novel sales, including manga, soared. Now here it is. There it is. Look at this. Now this is the key, folks, right here. You know, the 1.2 $2.6 billion that they tout all the time. This is what it all breaks down to. Here they say just call it graphic novels, so it's manga and books like Dog Man and stuff like that, young adult stuff, and some comic book superhero type graphic novels. That's what the green. Now look at these bar graphs. Now notice them. They each have the comic book, the periodical, the floppy. We all know the graphic novels and digital. Now if you look at this, digital, it got a little bit of a bump in the last few years, mostly because of a certain virus that happened. We all know about. And a same thing with, the graphic novels. They were growing slightly until a certain pandemic hit, and then boom, they jumped up. But look at the comic book sales. They're pretty much flatlined, minus a little dip right here in 2020. Again, we all know why. When you force shops to close and stop distributing the product, you're going to have people who will not be able to access that product. So we all understand why that happened, but it's pretty much all the years before are pretty much years since that event. It's flatlined for 6 years. No growth. Digital grew. Graphic novels, manga, they grew. But comic books didn't grow. And again, this is just a 6-year period. I'm sure if we went back further, we'd see even more of that. So, this is what we're talking about. This is what all of us who've talked about this for years on YouTube and other social media sites, this is what we've talked about. We say the comic book industry, this is what we're talking about. We don't care about this. We certainly don't care about this. This is what we mean. And their own numbers show it is flatlined. It is not growing. So right there, all that they've told you for years about comics are booming, comics are doing better than ever, it's all a lie. A lie that is now, the numbers are exposing it. I mean, I'm surprised she put those numbers up because they make the case against everything she has said in the past regarding all of this. John Jackson Miller has estimated the entire market that go to 2021 when the addition of new distributors, and in Grep's 2022 estimation, the 435 million in periodic sales, and made this little chart. And here it is right here. And he goes, no matter what people have been telling you, periodicals during the pandemic, they were definitely declining before the pandemic, but not crashing cataclysmically. So right there, again, we told them, you're losing money. The books aren't selling. Stuff is failing. So she's basically saying we're right. Yes, it's true. It all was happening. While she was out there telling you, no, comics are doing just fine. Don't believe that comics are dying. Crowd, they're a bunch of charlatans. This is what was really happening. But that was then, and this is 2023, a time when inflation, economic uncertainty, and companies that cut thousands of jobs so they just so they can have made discretionary spending a lot harder. Now, she links to the recent Hasbro story where they just cut people right before Christmas time. And of course, we know the DC bloodbaths in 2021, where they went to a hot desk and they fired a whole bunch of upper management people. We know about Disney this last year laying off 8,000 people. So this is happening all over the place, but she picks Hasbro because they did it at Christmas time, I guess. And you know how she frames it: cut thousands of jobs so they can. Like they just woke up one day and said, you know what? Yeah, we're making plenty of profit, but I'd like even more profit. So let's cut some jobs. Let's cut a few thousand people out of the workforce so we can make even more profit for ourselves. That's what they did. Not that, oh wait, the products aren't selling. The stuff isn't moving. We're not seeing the traction on this stuff. It's costing us money to produce it. See, this is the gaslighting. See, again, this is how she's painting the picture. Look at the word choices she uses in this stuff. And then she tries to hide behind inflation and economic uncertainty, where, again, if you know anything about the past, I remember in the early 90s, right before I started working at the comic shop, when I was still in high school, I remember the little mini recession we had, like right around, 1991, 92? That's why George Bush Sr. didn't get reelected. because he said no new taxes, and then he did a new tax because of an economic recession. And yet, if you recall in comics in 1991, 92, they were booming. People were buying tons of stuff. Now, a lot of it was speculation driven, yes, but that's how it always goes. When times are tough in like the stock market, people move to more liquid assets like gold, silver, and collectibles. But yet here she's admitting, well, that's not happening this time. Why not? Why isn't it happening? Could it be because the people who would normally do that know that the work is quality is lacking, it's garbage, and that there's no way this stuff is ever going to be worth anything? Could that be why they're not doing that? Continuing on. Rising rents have squeezed out not just independent stores, but large retail chains. It's a mess out there. Despite that, Americans love to buy things, and holiday spending seems to be trending upwards. Again, probably more lying from the government telling us that, the economy's doing just great. Don't believe your lying eyes when you go to the grocery store and the gas station. All of which is to add some context, because none of this happened in a vacuum. So what do we know about the 2023 comic sales? They are definitely down, and estimates seem to be hover around 20%. Well, isn't that what Phil Boyle said in that clip I showed you? DC down 17%, Marvel down 24%. You average those two out, that's about 20% each, isn't it? Funny that. At the ICV2 white paper in October, Greppy lists data for 2023. 2023 year-to-date graphic novel sales in book channels are down 19%. Manga book channels down 27%. Graphic novels dollar share sales in comic stores down 7%. Comic sales down 7%. As you can see from the above, sales slipped even more in bookstores. Of course, that's because most people are going to the bookstores rather than the comic shops, which is why the comic shops are closing at phenomenal rates. But a lot more. We hear about consumer comics a lot more, especially in the fourth quarter. Even sales titans, Dogman and Wimpy Kid, are down. Pardon me, folks. Need to. That's better. I think. Even sales titans like Dogman and Wimpy Kid are down. I'm sure Circana's Christian McLean has a better way to put things, but it seems people just bought a lot of books during the pandemic, and now they're not buying other things, and the economy in general is just weak. Again, something that I'm sure that she would not be admitting to if she didn't have to. Because again, I'm sure she voted for Biden, who has caused a lot of this stuff. And now she has to admit it because it's the only way to save face with the obvious that's in everyone's face. So what's really going on out there? To find out, we should hear from retailers. So here's a roundup of the most talked about essays. Of course, there's Phil Boyle's piece that kicked most of this talk off. I talked about it here. Taylor warns that comics are dying again. So I'm sure we know how she talked about it. Boyle had some very well-expressed concerns that were unfortunately derailed by a few culture war comments. A lesson he learned well as we'll see below, and sparked much more discourse. So there it is. She brushed aside all the data, all the evidence, all the facts he's spewing, because he said that, altering iconic characters that people are beloved by the audience probably is hurting you, and you need to stop doing that. And you're a culture warrior now, so we can't listen to a thing you say. Shut up, bigot. A few days later, Grape himself weighed in with a piece called "Can Comics Be Saved?" Based on his many years in the business, he identified a culprit that many have pointed out: poor quality comics. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Poor quality comics. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I think there's a very general reason why Marvels and DCs aren't selling. They aren't very good. I had a rule when I was in distribution, and it was good is as good sells. That means the definition of a good product is that when you expose an audience to it, it sells. That's not happening with Marvel and DC, so by definition, they're not very good. That the why is a bigger question with a lot of theories. First of all, it's hard to produce great comics or any kind of great entertainment. If it were easy, they'd all be great, and we'd all be rich. There are some periods when the industry is on fire, with creativity pouring out of every pore. See why 1986 stands out as a high watermark for the direct market era. And other times, even though everybody's trying, the results are poor. So one theory is that we're just in a weak period creatively for reasons that we'll never understand. But do we not understand them? Do we? Do we really? Because, even when you look back to the past of, say, the late 90s, and a lot of people say there was a lot of crap that was made in the late 90s, and I couldn't disagree with that. But as bad as those books may have been, the sales on them were light years above anything we're seeing now. The industry today would kill for the numbers from the late 1990s after the speculation bubble popped. They would kill for those numbers. So is it true we'll never understand? Or is it just, well, he doesn't want to say because, like Phil Boyle, he doesn't want to get dogpiled for being a culture warrior? Because we do know why the quality is down. It's because you have editors who don't edit. They spend more time gatekeeping people out of the industry that they don't want to have work than they are trying to get good people on the books to produce great work. You have activists masquerading as creative people who don't care a damn thing about the characters, the audience, the sales, or anybody else. All they care about is pushing their narrative and agendas, and they don't care if it destroys everything in their wake. And then you have the creatives who aren't really creative for comics, but see them merely as a stepping stone towards a Netflix deal or for, a movie deal. That's what they want. They don't give a damn about comics. If they put out a product and somehow it got optioned for a movie, they'd walk away from comics like their pants were on fire. They would move so quick. They wouldn't give a damn. This is why the quality is poor. You have people in positions of power and creativity who are neither. They're not powerful and they are not creative. And that is why you have what you have. It's not hard to understand why. As another veteran comics reader, I don't find much of interest in today's superhero comics, but others strongly disagree. Update. I had originally linked here to the Beats Wednesday comic reviews column, a little self-promotion, of course, forgetting that it specifically reviews indies, not big two comics. Whether comic periodicals from publishers or not, Marvel and DC are selling well is a question that no one has addressed to my satisfaction in all of the discourse. To be continued. So she linked something that she thought would help promote her view, her painting, as it were. It doesn't really do that. It more actually paints the picture that perhaps the big two are failing. So nobody had to have the update for. That's hilarious. Another industry veteran, Chuck Rosansky, who often has a gloomy outlook on sales, offered his own take on whether comics could be saved or not a few days later. Rosansky's culprit was simple demographics. In some regards, I believe that this trend of declining periodical comics interest is irreversible, merely reflecting on the slow death of our core constituents, males born from 1940 to 1970. Hello, 74 here. So I'm not the core demographic, but yet I've been here for almost 4 decades. From the ravages of time, as a secondary market reseller, I cannot begin to relate just how many large collections of prior periodical releases that I have been offered over the past 3 years from either the widows and orphans of lifelong comic fans or from those aging fans themselves as they come to the bitter realization that their days of indulging their 4-color passions have finally come to an end. To be specific, I have personally turned down offers to purchase back issues collections that in total exceeded 1 million individual issues during each of the past 3 years. Given that we are at most 1% of the national market for back issues, that statistic alone should prove significant insight into the current and ongoing comic malaise. Which, sure, that's a factor. The only one who strongly disagrees are the agenda pushers, not the buyers. Yes. Continuing with Chuck Rosansky's here. The obvious solution to this aging out dilemma is we need to have a new generation of readers, collectors to emerge. In my opinion, however, that is highly unlikely to occur. The economics of this inexorable decline are relatively simple to understand. As our baby boomer generation steadily leaves us and our replacement population of new collectors is much smaller, print runs are in steady decline. For the creation of comics to then make economic sense for the publisher, cover prices must rise. With each cover price increase, however, another stratum of potential new customers are priced out of the new comic market. Not to mention some of the old guard who just can't afford to swing that either. That being the case, I see no rational conclusion but to believe that the direct market periodical business is in a death spiral right now, one for which I see no obvious remedy. And again, that's a factor, I am sure. But when you factor that in with creatives who attack the few boomers, as he would say, they're still buying, who create work that nobody wants to buy, be they an old reader or new, you're just going to force that death spiral to happen even faster. It doesn't have to be this way, but yet they let it be this way. I thought this was an egelic and well-expressed take, but not everyone agreed with it. The high prices argument is one you often hear, but some retailers don't think it makes too much of a difference if a book is $3.99 or $2.99. Later on, Rosansky advocated cation for comic shops. I have been beating the drum for nearly a decade now, passionately imploring my fellow comic retailers to stop thinking of themselves as primarily periodical outlets and instead think of themselves as pop culture resellers. But a lot of retailers don't like selling Funkos. There you go. That's the classic of Kronzer. Oh, some retailers are expanding and evolving. Yes, evolving into not being comic book shops. That's what they're evolving into. And even Rosansky is basically telling you, yeah, you really can't be a true comic shop anymore. If you're a true comic shop, you're destined to fail. That's what he's saying. Again, and I've told you, retailer told me, back issues are keeping our doors open. The new stuff doesn't move. We're not bringing in new readers. It's worth noting that a few days ago, Rosansky, he talked about a trip he took to gain some stuff, which kind of flies in the face of some of what he said. In case you missed the nut stat there, Rosansky sales were up 18% year to year in early December, so not everything is bad news. See, again, look at him clutching at straws because he had year-over-year increase because he bought up a bunch of older stuff. See, that's the key here. He bought a bunch of old stuff that people actually want to buy, stuff that is actually somewhat expensive if it's in decent shape. Because you got the high-end collectors who are willing to pay for that stuff, and he was able to make a profit from that. Somehow that means, things aren't all bad. But again, like I said, in the 80s, did you think there was any comic book shops that would have said, yeah, thank God for the back issues, man, otherwise we wouldn't be open? No, you never heard that. Hell, you didn't even hear that in the 90s. But you hear it now. That's a difference. That's a sea change. That's something that should be worrying to everybody in the industry. Along those lines, Conan Saunders of My Comic Shop, one of the biggest online retailers out there, noted that their annual Books Giving sale was widely successful this year. 2022's Books Giving was previously our biggest single sales day ever. But 2023 said, hold my beer. We broke all of last year's records by big margins. Over 3,000 orders totaling almost $500,000 total sales up 40%, and a number of items shipped almost 45% above last year, all in a single 24-hour period. We gave away over 14,000 free comics and graphic novels and sold another 21,000 steeply discounted items at just $1 each. Now, take note of that. He's talking about this great big thing, and yet, look, they gave away 14,000 books and sold 21,000 that were for $1. And I guarantee you, almost none of that was classic stuff, like stuff from the 90s, 80s, the 70s. None of that. It was all that stuff that was given away for free or sold for $1 a book, all modern stuff. All the stuff that they can't sell. That's what they gave away. They didn't give away the good stuff. They didn't give away what was selling, the older books. They weren't giving that away. But see, again, this is the disingenuousness of people like Heidi McDonald. Mail order seems to be doing well for these two retailers, at least in the early holiday period. Yeah. How many guys don't have that option? As we've noted here a few times, comics creator Mark Millar has been wading into the retailing discourse fray like he's Drew McIntyre giving Jay Uso a super kick. I'm going to leave out all the Glenn O'Leary stuff that has become an exercise in drama that Bravo would love to air. See, again, notice she's keeping out that. Why? Because it's saying things that she doesn't want you to hear. Glenn is talking about, the crappy work and how the self-inserts and the altering of the icons has ruined the books that they don't sell. She doesn't want you to hear any of this. So that's why she's just sidestepping it. See, when she can't spin it, she just sidesteps. But Millar got so much attention from his first retailer interview that he decided to sit down with 3 other retailers, the ones that I showed you. And he goes, this was a great informative conversation with 3 retailers, and it's a shame there isn't a transcript out there because I think it captures a lot of the challenges and many strengths better than a lot of the hand-wringing essays. Although Millar seems intent on painting a picture of an industry on its deathbed, all 3 retailers refute that while being frank and honest. See, again, interesting. She wishes there was a transcript. Why? So she could fish through it to find a few little bits that she could use to say, see, comics are doing great. All these people, lying charlatans are saying comics are lying. That's why she wants it. Because if she knew that the transcript would be full of stuff that like guy Glenn O'Leary said, she wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Boyle notes that his store dropped, from 2022 to 23, have dropped 14%. Marvel has dropped 8%. And it may sound terrible, but, doing the ratio variant, again, as you saw it yourself, he said 17% for DC, 24% for Marvel, 73% for Boom. Those are the kind of numbers that will definitely cause alarm bells to ring. Gee, you think? Boyle also notes, somewhat to Miller's surprise, that they sell a lot of Dogman and manga in the store. Well, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. And along the lines of what Rosansky was suggesting, they sell a lot of Funkos, games, and toys, with comic periodicals bringing in 18 to 22% of their overall sales. Games and toys are also down of late, however. So, again, think about this. Think of a comic shop in the 80s. Do you think new comics only accounted for 18 to 22% of their sales? Hell, if they were selling stuff other than comics, that would probably be what had the 18%. That's what they had. This again, without realizing it, she's telling truth that she doesn't want you to know about. This is bad. If a comic shop is saying 20% of their sales are from actual comics and everything else is from all this other stuff that they've had to bring in to keep the lights on, that tells you how bad the industry is, the dire straits it is actually in. The people like Heidi McDonald who will lie to your face and gaslight you to say that that's not true. All those people are a bunch of charlatans who say comics are dying. And yet, here's a guy with a successful comic shop, and it's only successful because he brought in a bunch of ancillary crap that has nothing to do with comics to offset the fact that the comics are only bringing in 1 out of every $5 into the store. This is what they don't want you to know. This is what they want to hide from you. Robinson noted that the rise of the miniseries has made selling comics harder. We need consistent long-term runs and books. We need people that stick with the title, and I need publishers to stick with the title. Publishers that don't realize how much time it takes to sell a single customer on signing up for a 4-issue miniseries. Every final issue is a jumping off point, he noted. Yes. But again, are these books truly miniseries the way we think of them? When I think of the miniseries, I think of stuff, like the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, 12-issue miniseries. Or I can call that a limited series, but still, that's what I think. I think it's something like that. I think of stuff like that. That the stuff was, the Rocket Raccoon miniseries, 4 issues. The Firestar miniseries, 4 issues. That's a miniseries. That was intended to be that. A lot of these books that end up as miniseries probably weren't destined for that. They were meant to be a regular series, but they just failed. Like Tim Drake Robin, canceled in 10 issues. Do you think that was meant to be a 10-issue limited series? I don't think so. That was meant to be a regular series, but the book sold so damn poorly. Nobody wanted it, and it failed. And this is what people are catching on to, is there's no reason to put any effort into supporting the books because they're not going to be around for long anyway. As Du Bois Dan Slott said, just wave it away with your hands. Doesn't matter. It's unimportant. The worst thing you can do. In a metaphor I will use from now on, Boyle said the industry lacks a parking lot book. A parking lot book is where someone buys the comic and they sit in their car and have to read it. Yes, I remember that when I was younger, and my mom would take me to the comic shop, and I'd buy my comics. And I'd get in the back of the car and I'd break one out right there and start reading. I didn't even wait to get home to read the comics. I started reading them in the car on the way home. And this goes to something Eric July has talked about. He calls it the enthusiasm gap. People are not excited for these books anymore. They're not excited for Spider-Man. They're not excited for Batman. They're not excited for Wonder Woman. They're not excited for the Hulk. The icons. They're not excited for them anymore. I'm sure most of you who are watching this, you remember a time when you were reading cookbooks and those characters, you couldn't wait to get the next issue. Oh, man, I got to get the next issue. Oh, man, I got to wait a month. Oh, man, it's going to take forever. But they don't have any feeling. Nobody has any feelings like that for this work today. And that's because of the poor quality and the shitty behavior of the creatives online. That's why. And again, this is the one thing they never, ever want to talk about. That's where the enthusiasm gap comes from. The very people who should be pushing it more to make you want to buy it are actually pushing it more to where you don't want to buy it. And then they wonder why it fails. She goes on with some other stuff, bringing up the whole thing about the cover prices, saying that $2.99, $3.99 isn't that different, but that $6.99 for a first issue are a barrier to entry. And we all know number 2 has a significant drop off from number 1. So if if number 1 is already stymied by the price point, all you're doing is shooting yourself in the foot. Yes. Why is everyone so worried about Marvel and DC anyway? Seymour noted that they are the anchors for the regular traffic in the store. In weeks where there's really low number of titles of Marvel or DC titles, there's also a significant drop in traffic. She goes, there's a lot more of the conversation, but I said the whole thing is one of the best inside the current situation that's come out. It is. I saw it all. And again, they did touch on the culture war stuff a little bit, but they didn't want to focus on it. And I don't blame them because, again, Heidi McDonald's piece would have been probably very different if they had. To try to summarize the underlying issues, however, it does seem to be one of quality, or at least excitement. Well, I recall going to my first comic shop and blah, blah, blah. She told about how she got when she got Howard the Duck for the first time. She got out of the bag and read it in her grandmother's car right away. She couldn't wait. And how that we don't have that anymore. We need great content, but the creators of that content we once enjoyed don't move the needle as much anymore. Miller keeps going on about bringing back vets like John Byrne and Chris Claremont, but you could look up the sales on their pre-pandemic titles and they weren't chart toppers most of the time. Well, but why is that? Is it because they are no longer any good? Or is it editorial dictates? Oh, you got to write the character this way now. It doesn't matter how they were historically. You got to write them like this now. This is how they have to be written. You got to write them this way. Is it, you can't do that in that comic. You can't show this in that comic. You can't write this in that comic because it's problematic. Could that be why? When you're hamstringing the people who have the talent, saying they can't do what they do because, well, you know, it'll upset certain people. It'll upset people in the alphabet crew. It'll upset people of a certain skin color. Meanwhile, there are certain groups that it's okay. You know, hey, oh, you want to say something's going to denigrate straight white males? Oh, go right ahead, man. Hey, do it every issue, in fact. Do it every other page. We love that stuff. You see, again, she says how their stuff wasn't chart toppers at the time, pre-pandemic, but she doesn't go into any of why. Because she's not interested in why. See, she just wants to use this to sideline Millar's point that you need talented people with actual creativity creating the works. And there's nobody in there currently. The current crop of people, your T. Franklins, your, Vita Ayalas, your Mags Visagios, your, Kelly Sue DeConnick's, your Zeb Wells. These people, they're no good. They can't create great works. They don't know how. So you would have to go to people in the past who have done it before because they at least understood how to do it. But again, see, she gets into none of this because it doesn't help the picture she wants to paint. To be brutally honest, the olden days were better because we were younger and more easily excited. In 2023, Danny Warren Johnson sold 150,000 copies of his first Transformers issue, and people are generally excited about those Hasbro books from Skybound. They don't excite me as much as Gene Colan did, but that's perfectly fine. It's called life. See, now again, more spin. Now it's just, well, the enthusiasm gap isn't because, there are these activists masking as creators who are driving away the reader base and destroying the characters they love so they don't buy them anymore. That's not had nothing to do with it. It's just that they're just getting older and their tastes have changed and, they're not excitable like they were when they were real young. But yet what she also fails to mention is, well, the younger people aren't excited by this stuff. And that's who it's supposedly for, right? That's what we're all told. Oh, this work, it's not for you. It's not for you, you old boomer bigot. This is for a new generation. This is for a new audience. This is from a representation generation. And yet even they aren't buying it because it's not selling. Funny how that works, isn't it? And then we get to what she really wanted to write this piece about. Some of the worst takes about all of this, and there have been some truly awful ones, are the various conspiracy theories which Millar seems to be edging towards with some of his questioning that it's a certain group of comics creators and even publishers want the direct market to die. I hate to dignify this idea with a mention, but that idea is batshit crazy. We're not living in a scorpion and frog scenario here. All the level-headed people in the comics business want multiple sales channels to be successful, and to think otherwise is just exhausting and tedious. I'll have some more quotes on that soon. Yes, so I'm going to work on some hit pieces on people who are saying things that I don't like, saying things that go against the narrative I'm trying to paint for you. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This is her version of Mark Waid's "everyone who doesn't agree with me is what she's saying here." Oh, I hate to even mention it. I hate to dignify this idea with a response. As if she's so put out. Never mind that she's probably one of the brainchilds behind a lot of this stuff. Of why they're the way they are. Of why things are happening like this. Again, no culpability for her whatsoever, you notice. But once again, fear and anxiety breed more fear and anxiety. David Harper, off-panel podcast at Sketched, has several really great conversations of late, having a lot of bearing on the current discourse. Here's one with, editorial Morgan Pierman, who I think everyone agrees is a rising star in the industry, and she has a lot of smart things to say about marketing and sales. It's too bad these are podcast only and no transcripts for those like me who like to read big blocks of text. The next episode features Bruno Battista from Dublin's Big Bang. This is the guy who attacked your boy Zach and tried to get other retailers to side with him to not carry the book Jawbreakers if it would have been published through Antarctic Press, who threatened the company that if you publish him, we will stop buying all your products. Isn't it funny? Retailers can have power to silence people that people like Heidi and Mark Wade don't like. But when it comes to, wait a minute, they got power to silence us. Oh, we can't let that happen. We gotta get rid of these direct market guys and go into like libraries and bookstores only. See how funny it is? And it covers staying ahead of trends, the year in the shop, working with libraries and their product mix, changing customer behavior, quality as a sales point, Transformers and the Energon Universe, Jonathan Hickman's Marvel, Dawn of DC Post-Night Terrors, single issues, manga's performance, the larger direct market conversation, maintaining motivation, and more. In other words, all the things we've been talking about, except she hasn't been talking about them until now because she didn't care until now. Her friend up until now was, the charlatans, they're only charlatans who say comics are dying. Don't believe them. Believe me, comics doing great. Look, here's the ICV2 graph to prove it. That's what she's been saying. That's what all her kind has been saying. And it shows about the podcast from that week, which of course has her, so that's why she, had to plug that. Harper and Eigel noted that fear of the unknown is really fear of change, and that's what we're going through right now. Harper also made a very insightful point. A lot of the sales trends we are seeing in 2019 were headed for trouble, and the pandemic sales surge just masked those. As we enter 2024, we're seeing the result of variant covers, miniseries, and a lack of star power coming home to roost. Again, who was talking about this stuff in 2019 and in 2020? It was us, the Good Comics Group. We were the ones talking about this, and we were called bigots and racists and Nazis and alt-right trolls. And now here again, while she hasn't explicitly said it, this is as close as a Heidi McDonald will ever get to admitting we were right. That everything we said was correct. And again, the masking during the pandemic was manga masking. Again, a mask that we now have pulled off. That is no longer a part of the discussion anymore. And I love this last bit here. The biggest elephant in the room is definitely the quality of the comics. That's a stress, and one I'll have to address in a separate post because this one is getting long. So there it is. She spends all this time gaslighting you into thinking that everything is fine. All the stuff you're hearing from these people is conspiracy theories. The problem that are here, well, they've been around, but they aren't that big a deal. Well, yeah, they're coming home to roost, but it's not what you think. She's doing all this of her painting her picture, as she put it. And in the end, the biggest elephant in the room, the main thing you probably should talk about, and it's, I'll talk about that in a separate. Of course, we know why she didn't lead with it. We all know why she didn't lead with it. It's the same reason it always is with these people. Because the truth would set you free. You would know then what the truth actually is. And they can't have that. And now, as we're getting on here to a close 3.5 hours, I have one last thing to share with you guys. So let me get that going. Once again, this is from Twitter. This is something from Penny Parker. She originated the original post, but it's this Kitta who is really the interesting one because they made such valid points in what they said here. So I'm going to go through all this real quickly here. She talks about, how people are trying to cancel Glenn O'Leary for things he never said and all that stuff. And then Kitna hits you with this information that, again, has blown things wide open in a way that no one thought of before. So there are two things of note here. First, Glenn's video threatened to break the wall of silence that Rich Johnston put up in front of the retailers by calling any of them who complained about the shit comics being put out racist. If you remember, I barely do, about 4 to 5 years ago, a retailer convention happened in New York, and as the retailers flat out said, this shit is unsellable, Rich and Heidi's response was to call them racist for a year straight until they were cowed into silence. I do remember that. That's the one where the retailers complained about Marvel's shitty product and DC shitty product. These books don't sell. And this is where they were told that, well, but where I think one of the execs from one of the big companies was there and said, oh, what we're hearing is that you don't like diversity. That's what we're hearing you say. Not, oh, this content is garbage because you're focused on the wrong things, because you aren't focused on good characters and good stories. You're focused on identity politics. No, what they heard is, you don't like diversity. That's what we hear. And that's what people like Rich Johnson and Heidi McDonald and CBR and all the rest of the shill media, the Whisper Network cronies, that's what they all ran with. I remember that story. Glenn's video and the rabid reaction from the cancel pigs threatened to break this wall of silence. Every time they attack a retailer, instead of ignoring them, they risk retailers going, screw it, I'm out of business in 2 years anyway, and going scorched earth. The more on the ball sociopaths like Gail Simone immediately realized this, tried to calm things down, and gently slide Glenn back behind the wall of silence. Then you had idiots like Visaggio and Villalobos and Cates who didn't get that memo because they're not in the chat rooms. There you are, you see? There it is, the duplicity of Gail Simone. Trying to act like she cares, but she doesn't. All that she does is in service to herself and her narratives. That's it. All the changes you've seen in her, if you saw her say stuff like, wow, the Gail from like 2022 or 2021 would never have said this. Because she knows, she sees the winds shifting. She knows things are bad, real bad. And she doesn't want to be caught. Again, like Eric July said, if the changes come to this industry that should, a lot of people aren't making it on the other side. And she wants to make sure that if that does happen, she's one of the few that does. This is the calculation they make. She spent years attacking people, dogging them, whisper networks, gossiping them, trying to destroy creators' lives, trying to ruin readers' loves, and all of this has come back to haunt her, and she's trying to spin doctor it and go, well, I'm really engaged in any of that stuff. I haven't been for a while. There you go. Exactly, leg kick. They won't, because it's the truth. They know it's the truth. That's why they won't bring a lawsuit. Because what are they going to do? If they brought a lawsuit, everything would have to come out in discovery. Everything. And that would damn them, and they know it. But the cancel pigs foot troops types reacted poorly because they jumped on Glenn and used their standard playbook, sexist, racist, homophobic, and since the video was public, it failed utterly, and fans took his side en masse. That's when you had Mark Millar step in and take Glenn's side instead of ignoring him as the Whisper Network demanded. Boosted his video, even drew more attention to it. Millar has screw you money, influence, and what have you? The cancel pigs can't do anything to him, and he knows. There it is. That's exactly right. They want to cancel him, and they can't. That's why saying cheers, bud, to Ethan Van Sciver for promoting his video with Glenn was seen as like, oh, he's an alt-right Nazi. That's why they have to hit him, because it's all they've got. That's all they have. They only have two things, ad hominems and perceived legitimacy. And if they lose the one, the other won't matter. So he laughed at them, gave them their new forever name, and they raged. Search his name and see how many flag bearers are openly fantasizing about some B-list comic pro killing him or what have you. Of course, immediately the hunt went on to find something to cancel him over. Enter EVS, commenting on Mark observing the most basic of social niceties, which the cancel pigs, desperate to root out any kernel of corn in the pig slop that is social media, found and then pretended to be retarded so they could pretend to be offended. This is all a long, pointless recap, but it brings me to the point I wanted to make. 1, the Cancel Pigs took a huge L with Glenn. 2, people are realizing they have no power. 3, they need a scalp to remind people that you don't dare defy the Cancel Pigs or else. Enter the biggest, fattest Cancel Pig of them all, Renfamous. Renfamous showed up a few days in after Mark Millar broke the wall of silence and started giving Glenn attention and a platform. Renfamous is literally a paid troll from Weber Shandwick, a PR crisis firm. No, literally, Weber Shandwick has a product called Firebell. It trains companies on how to ignore and blunt consumer revolts on social media. Infamous worthless racist hack Kwanzaa Jeffo is confirmed to work for them too. What a surprise. What a surprise. What this means is somewhere around the time Mark Millar platformed Glenn, someone called in the Fireball team to make the Glenn situation go away. I think they're very, very, very scared of the possibility of the wall of silence cracking and retailers openly revolting. Exactly. Exactly. That is exactly what it is. This is what they fear. They've had power and control and dominance for so long that they thought they would have it forever. Just like with Trump. You know, before Trump, the leftists thought they would have all power forever. And that they would never have to worry about not having any. And then along came Trump. And now we're seeing that this stuff here might just be the Trump for the comic book industry. Mark Millar may be the Trump of the comic book industry. And that is why they fear him. That is why they hate him. That is why they're trying so hard to cancel and silence him. But they can't. He has fuck you money. He doesn't need comics. Though comics probably needs him. And that is what this all comes down to. This is what it is. They are scared to death. They are losing power. Got a comment here from World's Greatest Review. Remember Miss used to go on Midnight's Edge and make fun of Star Trek Discovery. Why isn't she being cancel pigged for that? Well, because she's useful. As long as you're useful to the cancel pigs, they won't cancel you right away. It's when you step out of line. Let me use a great example for you here, World's Comics, is J.K. Rowling. If you were to look into her past and look into her politics, she probably agrees with these assholes on 99% of the stuff they want. Climate change, social justice, redistribution, all that jazz. She's all for all of it. But there's just one little sticking point for her. When you say men can be women and women can be men. And she goes, no, biology says that's not possible. And I'm going to believe biology over somebody's feelings. And because she said that, they tried to cancel her. Again, she's another one like Millar who has FU money. But they still tried to cancel her, didn't they? Even though she agrees with them on 99% of everything else, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you side with them. You side with 100% or they come after you. Now, she is still useful. She is still attacking the right people. So Renfamous gets the pass. But I guarantee you, if she ever came out against them on something, if she came out and said, yeah, you know, maybe identity politics is screwing up comics pretty badly. If she said something like that, guaranteed that and everything else would all come out. They're like the sick girlfriends, you know, who tell you when you do something dumb and they say, oh, don't worry about it. I've forgotten all about that. It doesn't matter. I'll let it go. It's no big deal. They didn't let it go. They just stored it away for later. So they get an argument with you and you start to win the argument. All those things you did that were messed up, they're all going to come right back right then. Boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden now you're wrong. And that's how the cancel pigs work. They give their own enough rope to hang themselves, but they don't while they're useful. And the minute they're no longer useful, that's when the knives come out. So for Renfamous, she better stay in line because if she doesn't, guaranteed she will be destroyed. And she knows that. That's the thing. These people know how this game is played. Kwanzaa, you know, Gail Simone, Alex DeCampi, Stephanie Crook, you know, Kelly Sue DeMoronic. They all know how the game is played. They're the ones who invented it. Yes, see, again, and that's just how it is. So it shows you that these people truly have no love for anything. except their own sense of offense and outrage. That's all they love. They don't really love anything else. Oh, I loved Harry Potter until J.K. Rowling said women can't be men. I mean, it's just utterly ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure if I went through my back issues, I'd find creators of the past who had probably political views I wouldn't agree with. But they didn't attack me for it. They didn't call me an alt-right Nazi and a bigot for it. And so I'm able to enjoy their work. And the fact that they have those views that I don't agree with doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to stop liking that work now. Oh, you think abortion should be a right instead of, something decided by the states? Oh, I can't support your work anymore. No. You're allowed to have that view. I think you're wrong, but you're allowed to have that view. And that's the thing about the cancel pigs is they don't allow any dissenting voices. It has to be in unison, because when you're a cancel pig, it's all about uniformity. Everyone must comply because you want to be seen as a force. You want to be seen as powerful because deep down inside, you're not. And again, that's what a lot of this stuff here has been showing you. They're not nearly as powerful as they think they are. And that is why they're so scared. That is why they come at people so damn hard, because they have nothing else. Like I said, ad hominems and perceived legitimacy. And if they lose the second, the first doesn't matter. And they know it. So what are we going to make of all this? Well, as the year comes to a close, I think this is an excellent reflection point for us all to stop and take stock of things and see exactly how we got to this point. Because again, unlike Chuck Rosansky, who says, well, we'll never understand why, I think it's pretty easy to understand why. And in going into the new year, we need to expose these cancel pigs. We need to fight back against them. We need to not buckle to them and show them that they are truly not the power that they want to believe that they are. And, again, as with Eric July, that means to me the parallel economy. You may have to stop reading Marvel and DC books. I mean, I know, again, they mentioned it. Heidi mentioned it in that article about, was it Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers book? I've heard a lot of good things about it. But, I got to ask myself sometimes, if I'm going to do it, I was like, yeah, no, maybe it will be good. But if I support that book, what am I doing? I mean, are they going to look at that and go, oh, this book is selling really well, but all these other books aren't selling well, so we need to stop making that stuff and make more of this? That's what you would think would be what they would think. That would be the thought to have, but it's not. Again, Eric July has called this funding your own oppression. You're giving money to people who hate you. And again, as I've shown you throughout all this, the last 3.5 hours, these people hate you. They hate you. They hate the retailers. They hate everything about you. If they could take your money and give you nothing, that is what they would want. That to them is the perfect solution. Take their money from them and give it to us for nothing. That is what they want ultimately. That's why they're looking to get rid of the direct market. That's why they're okay with burning it all down. Better to rule over ashes than to save something with the help of people we don't agree with. That's their mentality. And there's no common cause with a person who thinks like that. You can't work with someone and go, well, we can find a middle ground and we can both kind of have something. There is no middle ground with that person. And we have to stop acting like there is. Because it's not helping the retailers. It's not helping the industry. It's not helping the icons we love. The best thing to do is walk away. Walk away and support indie guys, support small guys, support Comicsgate, support the crowdfunding guys. Give them your support. They deserve it because they're actually out there trying to make works that are entertainment, not a political screed, not a scolding lecture to you for your being white or male. No. Actual entertainment meant to get your mind off of politics. And that's the way forward. I do believe with Chuck Rosansky and a couple others who have said like a couple years the direct market will be dead. I think that's probably truer than not. And is the industry is it able to be saved? I don't think so. And even if it is at this point, I'm not sure it's what we should want. Let it die. And again, bringing up my spirit animal, Eric July once more. He has said that maybe at some point, if that happens and the industry crashes and burns all the way, maybe the companies who own the IPs will say, we need to get some money. Let's sell them off, or at least sell out the publishing rights to somebody else who will publish them, and then maybe they'll get in the hands of people who care about those characters, who want to make them succeed, who want to make them what they are, who want to engage the readers with entertainment and not DEI lectures. And that's the way forward. You know, it's been a crazy year, you know, for me personally, you know, of course, as you guys know, medically, but just within the comic industry, so many things have changed so quickly. Last year at this very time, I was doing a stream just like this, telling you guys where they're crying about piracy hurting them and they can't make money. And now they're screaming, burn it all down. You know, if you'd have told me last year at the time, yeah, in the course of a year, they're going to be calling to burn the industry down, I would have laughed. I was like, get out of here. They have nothing if they do that. But now we understand why. Valerie D'Orzo and others have shown us why they feel this way, why they do these things. And when it all boils down, it does boil down to hate. They hate the readers and they hate the retailers. They hate the fact they need us and our money. And they're now doing everything they can to drive us away and create a new system that does not have to rely on us. That way they can continue to do exactly what they're doing and suffer no consequences. And that's what it all comes down to. You know, that's how you know what true evil is. True evil is wanting to do something you know is bad and then not get any consequences for it. That's true evil. And that's what these people are. That's what the cancel pigs are. And whether it's in movies or television or comics or anything else, cancel pigs destroy everything they touch. And they feel zero remorse when they do it. So we have to be equally bold in saying, we're not going to take this, and stand up to them and call them out when we see them and not support them. Because it's the only way we're going to get any real change of any kind whatsoever. We have to listen to people like Mark Millar and those retailers who are screaming the alarm bell. You know, and we have to create new icons. We have to create new characters and IPs that we can love, because the old ones, they're in the hands of evil people and they're not going to let them go. So this is what we have to do. And hopefully, given enough time, things will swing back around our way. And we can hopefully make something better from the ashes that will be left behind. So that'll about do it for this. After about 3.5 hours. Feeling a little stiff there. But I thank you all for joining me today. I hope you got some good stuff out of this. I hope I brought some new information to you, some stuff to get you thinking, some stuff to get you, you know, maybe understanding things in a way maybe you didn't. Maybe I brought some stuff to you that, you know, was news to you that you didn't even know about. And that's why I do these. I want to thank Leg Kick and World's Comics Review and anyone else who's been sticking around here in the chat and, you know, sharing this with me. I appreciate that. You guys make this all happen. As for the future here, you know, well, the future of the comic industry is very much not looking very good. It's very bleak, in fact. The future here is so bright I got to wear shades. So up next, I'll probably be doing, I saw the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla -1. I'll probably do a live stream, little quickie review on that if I can. And then towards the end of the year, I got a little something special, lined up for all you guys, a little tribute of sorts. And I think you'll enjoy that as well. And then after that, the sky's the limit. We'll see what 2024 brings. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me on this Christmas Eve. I hope you all have a very happy holiday and share it with the ones you love. And that, you know, your Christmas is a bright and happy one. And hopefully we'll see some better things come 2024 for all of us. And I thank you for joining me. And until next time, take care.